High five, we're number one. Welcome to day 3 of SportStream. I'm your host, Gary Batan. Boy, I got to tell you, I can't believe how successful this show has been, the amount of viewership we've gotten, the questions we've got from people viewing it, and the amount of content we produced. We've put out over 6 hours worth of content over the last 2 days, including today. We'll get close to 9 or 10 hours worth of content, all focused on creating the best possible sports video productions that you can as a producer, as a video tech, as a college, as a school, as a university, as a high school, as an independent sport league, as someone who runs a sports facility. It's all about streaming sports and streaming sports live, and we've just got some great stuff. So on the 10th, we did Getting Started in Live Production. That was more the basic stuff for an easy shoot independent. How to elevate your sports video with broadcast production was yesterday. Then today, remote production workflows, increased opportunities for sports coverage. We're going to get into some higher end stuff, and we're real excited. Let's talk about all the people we had on. Thanks for bringing that over there for me. But I want to review the 3 days we got through first, if that's okay. So if we can pull that up full stream, day 1. And remember, all these streams are available for you to review at sportstream.us. So day 1, Getting Started, JVC Sports Workflows, 1210 production company did a great, user story. Canon went over their cameras with a demo, and then Future Grade spotlight on another dealer with a user success story. Yesterday, Elevate Your Production. We had VizRT on sports workflows, Midtown Video. Thank you so much, Jesse. PTC Optics cameras and Hive, and the SportStream Q&A. Just so much. And then Thursday, today, Remy Production and Trends, Panasonic Kairos Workflows, Live View Sports, Visua with virtual gear, more Bird Dog news. It's a wrap with a Q&A to end it at the end of the day, which will be 3-ish, depending how long the rest of this stuff go. But by all means, stick around for that. It's going to be so much fun. We're really looking forward to it. It's really been, I just got to say thank you. Thank you to all of the product specialists we've had on the show from the companies we deal with. All the guys were great. I think the interviews are fantastic. I think each of them had some phenomenal nuggets that were very valuable for you as video content producers, sports producers. And also we had some tech tips in some of those shows and just some general ideas on where it's going. Today's interviews are just going to be that much better. Got to thank the SI Spotlights for these user studies. These were really phenomenal. We had Matt Baker from Visua, Brad, I'm going to get this wrong, so I'm going to say Jagelski from 1210, Jesse Miller from Midtown, and Austin James Smith from Future Grade Technologies. One of the things that I think really separates the programming we're doing for you with the sports stream is that we're not just giving you information from the vendors trying to pitch products. I think you've seen most of the vendor interviews and spotlights have been on how their products are used for sports, what makes them unique, why they're the right solution for the right type of event, and what you can do with them. And our user studies, which is really great. I got to thank all 4 of our SI partners for coming through for us, because that, I think, is some of the most valuable content of the sports stream. I know when I hear about technology from a vendor, I go to a trade show. I love listening to that stuff, but I always like, but how's it work in the real world? And now you really heard from people who are using it in the real world, in real situations, producing real games and real events. So great job by everyone. I'm going to dive into a little bit of takeaways from what we've learned the first couple of days. Key takeaways, what is sports production? Broadcasting to your audience at home. In venue is also very important for fan engagement. Just that's what everyone's doing now. And post-production with, analysis and studio broadcasters and interviews with, the color commentary and things like that. What did we learn? We learned that resolution and frame rates really matter. If you're putting in cameras, stretch your budget. Make sure you put in 4K P60. You get the best kind of color. You're going to get the best kind of view of your show. And you're with the 60 frames. You're going to be able to get slow motion going. I really recommend you also look for 4K UDR, UHD. That's where you have the increased color space, where you can really make things pop. As I've discussed in several of my interviews with several of our PTZ camera vendors, 4K looks great. HD look great, and then we got 4K. But a lot of people, especially people my age, can't really tell the difference between a 4K and an HD signal on a television. But when you add UHD and all of a sudden you get that additional level of color clarity, all of a sudden the blades of grass pop, you see the sweat on the guy's arm, you start to see, a more vibrant image, and it looks clearer and better. In fact, back before COVID, when we were first finding out, learning about UHD, one of the tests that a lot of our vendors did was, hey, look at this UHD with HDR versus 4K without it. And most people, especially people over 40, like the UHD better. So once again, I got to wear these glasses. Resolution is a problem for me. When it's color, it looks that much better. So by all means, 4K P60. Next thing we learned, the more cameras, the more better. No matter how many cameras you're shooting with your sport with, you will reach a point where you'll say, I wish I had more cameras. I wish I had this angle. I wish I could get the top view of the whole thing. I wish I had a close-up angle that I could get down on the field level or what have you. Those cameras can be live cameras with people. They can be PTZ cameras. You can also use Z cameras that just zoom in but have a fixed position. They don't pan and tilt. And theirs are also very useful for doing some talent stuff. There's talent who produces the game. You might have announcers, you might have color commentary, you might want to have your coach talking to people. So there's the action that happens in the game, and there's all the stuff and knowledge that comes around the game as well, between plays, with interviews and stuff like that. So the more cameras, the better. And by all means, mix and match PTZ with handheld cameras. It works great. Next, I want to talk about, this is a big thing with me, and if you've seen shows that I've done before, I always talk about the Spinal Tap, that, take things to 11. And I really feel that when you're shooting sports, the number one thing that you could do to take your sport to 11 is to add better graphics. Look at the graphics we have coming up. You can bring in stats and stuff like that. You bring graphics from your scoreboard. What should take your production to 15? Well, that's when you add instant replay. When you've got instant replay, you've separated yourself from a typical production. And the best instant replays aren't a single camera instant replay, but it's multiple cameras functioning in instant replay. So during the instant replay, you have the best possible angle of the play that you're showing, and then you can slow it down for slow motion with the P60 frame rate. Just makes it look that much better. And then what can you do to take your event even higher? You can start doing stuff like advanced graphics and analytics, where you can have one of the players have a circle under them, or have them be highlighted, or start showing analytics like how far the ball went, or what was the hang time on the kick, or just how fast the receiver ran down the field to catch it. Those analytics can come from different programs and third-party things, but you could also have the analytics that you're planning on using yourself for your show, and it just makes your show that much different, that much better than everyone else's. Now, one of the things that happens with sports, and I can't stress this enough, and that is practice, 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 rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. I have a general theory with streaming of any event, any show, that it takes your fourth show to get it right. Your first three, one of them's probably, your first one's going to be a disaster. One of the next two is going to go well. One of the next two isn't. By the fourth one, you really get in the flow with what you're doing. And anytime you upgrade your equipment substantially, be prepared to run that rule again when you get another 4 shows to get it right. But the more you rehearse, the more you practice, the better your production is going to be. So deploy your camera operators and in your encoders and make sure they're working before the game. Test things constantly. Add PTZ and robotic cameras, because it's easier to add a PTZ camera than necessarily a cameraman, which can have costs for you if you're a professional league, or if you're a school dealing with volunteers, it's just getting all the kids there at the same time. Have a producer, so a producer, a director, someone who's actually running the whole show, tying everyone together, someone who can do bring in your graphics remotely or your instant replay. And the cherry on top that we're going to go into today's show is expand production shows with remote operators and managers. And that means that you can have your studio back at the home field where your game is, high school, college, whatever, but you can send a team of cameramen who can go to the game, the away game, and actually bring those signals back in and be able to produce the show from home. It's called Remy workflows. You can hear a lot about that later today on our show. So that's where we are now, the future of sports production. That's what today's shows are going to be. And we have several things coming up for you, but we're going to talk about Remy workflows, which allow you to produce your event anywhere. how to manage multiple events at the same time or concurrently from a central studio, and how to cover more events to expand your business. Now, we're showing you today, we're going to have Live View Studio. We talked to Paul with the Hive. We have the Kairos guys coming on, which is a great little tool that can be working in venue and out of venue. We have the NDI 6 bridge. We didn't even talk about it, but we have Bird Dog has their cloud, and a lot of the products we have a REMI or remote or cloud-based addition to their solutions. That's where the industry is going. So I just want to take a few seconds before we dive into some of these interviews and just say, REMI and remote and cloud get confused and intermixed, but they're not the same thing. So by REMI or remote, what we're doing is we're actually controlling the event from afar and then sending the signal back home to the studio. Now, it may bounce through a cloud or not, but it's not being produced in the cloud, where other workflows actually have the camera signals going up to the cloud, the control going up to the cloud, and everyone's producing it remotely. They're not unique. You could have a remote workflow that has cloud components, or you could have a cloud workflow that has remote components, but it's a real way that you can scale and grow your show. And I'm not saying you have to be there today, but I'm definitely going to say if you're already doing video production with sports, you want to start experimenting and playing with this, because this is how you're going to take your productions to the next level, by going remote and integrating cloud. Not all, but integrating it and starting to use it and learn it. So as things change over time, you're ready and you're there and you're capable and you've built capacity, not just for the technology you own, but the people who are actually running and producing the show. What makes all this possible? And I'm going to get into my kind of computer IT geeky hat on now. AV over IP. You know, in the world where I grew up, you know, we had, if you watched a football game, you'd see a guy running along the sideline just moving the cables back and forth. So when the cameraman moved, the cables moved with him. Now everything's done is digitized, and not only is it digitized, it can be run over Ethernet cables. It's going over Wi-Fi. It's going over wireless networks using other technologies. Any source can be available for every producer. You can manage sources. Your same video clips can be used for in-house, out-of-house, OTT, streaming to phones, streaming to devices, or putting it on signage within the venue. And most of all, when it's AV over IP, it's a single cable. If you can run network cabling, you're there. You have PoE over the cabling, which means if you have a PoE switch that's plugged in and you connect 4 or 5 cameras with Ethernet, even if it's outdoors, it's low voltage, it's PoE. Those cameras are going to have their power from the switch. Very cool thing. We have people who are doing that. You can run these. You can run networking cable hundreds of feet with no problem anywhere. So with AV over IP, you can put video anywhere inside or outside the venue. So we're a big fan of that. And we've been doing NDI. NDI is what you've heard from us for 5 or 6 years. There's a new term now called ST2110. And that's basically the broadcast version of NDI. I'm going to oversimplify this dramatically for you old timers to get an understanding of this. Think of NDI being more like HDMI as an easy, convenient hookup that can be used by consumers, prosumers, and broadcast, where ST2110 is more like SDI. That's when you know you're really into the more high-level, broadcast-level production. And of course, you can mix and match as needed. It's not all one, all the other. It's not all SDI, all HDMI, and it's certainly not all NDI or ST2110. You can mix all 4 to the 2 baseband and the 2 IP. Grow as you need. Expand your sports production universe as your budget and as your talent. And by talent, I don't mean the talent of the players on the team. I mean your production talent grows. And the other thing that's really cool over an AV over IP workflow for sports is you can scale up your production in a hurry to just add what you need for a short time while really maintaining your general workflow. What I mean by that, let's say your team makes the playoffs, and now all of a sudden you got to produce better video. It's going to go to the OTT or the local television station wants to pick up, or maybe YouTube, you're going to show your games on YouTube, but you didn't show them live, or you're going to feed somewhere else. That's the great thing about AV over IP. Since everything's digital, you can send it wherever you want to send it. I guess I should have shown this slide while I was talking, but sometimes I get so excited about what I'm talking about that I forget that I have a slideshow that runs with it. So, you know, expandability, scalability is a term we use like in the business world and in the IT world. What it basically means is you're future-proofing your production. Your production is grow as you grow. If your team gets more successful, you can grow your production. If your team makes the playoffs, you can grow your production. Or if you just have more kids join up for your TV production program as a school, you can expand it then. One of the things I want to stress is the people producing this show right now with our TriCaster over there, Adam and James, they know these products cold, and you can call them at the 800 number we showed you before. I was too busy not talking, but they'll give you the tech advice you need. They'll help you with the whole stuff. You can call us there. And if you really need a local person who can come in and install the equipment and train you, we have a network of dealers through Broadfield Distributing that can easily come and help you get the exact equipment you need, put it in, install it, and train you, and service it and support it over time as well. So I was going to try to keep today's show to 15 minutes, and I actually achieved it, which is very rare for me because I usually don't shut up. But now we're going to do, this is a interview I had to do yesterday with Peyton Thomas from Kairos. And that was because the whole gang at Kairos is actually at the IBC show in Europe, and he made himself available to do the show for us. So we're going to roll that video. I think we have a couple of commercials or something we're going to play, then we're going to roll that video. Then I'm going to turn the show over to James, who's going to run the show during the day. And then at the end of the day, we're going to have a little Q&A session with me, myself, James, and Jim, where we're going to take some of the questions we got from you guys over the course of the show and boil them down. Some people ask the same questions and give you our top, 4 or 5 Q&A questions and how we're going to answer them and talk about it the show. So thank you so much for signing up. Day 3 of SportStream, and I'm out of here. Gary Batan, your host, and going to turn it over to the rest of the team for more great content, and be prepared because I think it's going to go today till probably the Q&A probably won't happen until 3 or 3:15. So thank you so much, guys. Stick around, watch it all, and SportStream, we're number 1. Okay, welcome back, SportStream. Today's spotlight is on Panasonic, but it's on the Panasonic Kairos. And I'm really excited about this because Kairos is a product which can be used at sports at all level. And by all level, I mean Kairos switches are being used by high school athletics and local athletic clubs, all the way up to things like professional sports, the Olympics, some of the biggest sporting events you've ever watched in your life. So we have Peyton from Kairos on the show. Welcome aboard. Peyton, tell us what you do over at Panasonic and introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, I'm Peyton. I'm the Kairos product manager, and we kind of help develop the Kairos product all the way down to like our entry-level product all the way up to high professional sports broadcasting products from GPU-based, basically the Kairos platform.
Cool. Now, I think it's important to give a little overview of the gut, the foundation of Kairos. And that is, mixers have been around forever. We're in a world that we had baseband mixers, which were SDI and HDMI. We had IP, where IP really for us is NDI, and then we have an emerging, broadcast level IP that's, the ST2110. But Panasonic was really as a software-defined, GPU-driven solution. So basically, Kairos is a box loaded with a ton of GPU power that can harness both IP and SDI, and you can start small and grow, or you can be huge. So talk about that a little bit and why that flexibility is so important.
Yeah, so with Kairos, it started, it loves 2110, so Kairos is the 2110 SMPTE 2110 is the Kairos backbone of the system, but it still does SDI transport as well. So it's perfect for that hybrid approach. We actually have a entry-level model, the KC200 L1, which is only SDI. But the best part about it is it can actually be upgraded over time to 2110. So we understand that 2110 is not for everyone, but 2110 is the backbone of the future for networked uncompressed video over a network.
We love it. We're getting to the Kairos boxes, but we wanted to kind of flip the script a little bit because with sports, it's really important to be able to switch the show quickly and accurately. And what we really like is you've got a whole bunch of options on the switching where you can get 2 different panels, which, even your small panel is a very big panel. We have one set up in our demo facility. The big panel is something you need a lot of room for, but you also work for people like Scarhoy and Stream Deck. And then there's also the actual software interfaces. So that level of flexibility with it, you can use a touchscreen, you can use panels, you can use third-party panels. I got to commend you guys because I know someone somewhere was saying, no, it should only be our panels, it should only be our panels. But some voice, one who said, no, let the user pick the interface that's best for them and their production. So kudos on that.
Yeah, yeah, it's extremely flexible, and the best part is you can connect up to all of these all at once, or just use a single panel, like you said, even just down to a REST API. If I'm at a different station and I just need to make a quick change, I can log into the core remotely and be able to make a change.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up those remote, the remote production. And Remy, because with our system, we actually have our workflow guru, Glenn's got a small panel. We got a large one here, and he can actually operate our Kairos from Texas anytime he wants. He just logs in and boom, he's up and going, and he can give demos. Because one of the things I want to stress on this whole show is if you as a video sports producer, be it a high school, a college, a pro team, a division, a league, amateur or a minor league, developmental league, whatever you are, if you want to see Kairos in action, we can actually give you a live demo with our solution, as well as Panasonic has the ability to do that, as well as if it's a big enough opportunity, we'll put boots on the ground, we'll send someone in to talk to you. We get that these Kairos solutions can be something as inexpensive as, say, $50K or up to $250,000, $500,000. I'm not trying to scare people here. I'm trying to really focus on the scalability of this system. So let's get into some of the boxes themselves. So we've got the first box, which is the original one, and go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so the original generation was 1 RU rack and a 2 RU rack. Now we have this 4 RU rack that you can see in front of you, which actually all of the new generation is in this 4 RU rack.
Cool.
So that can be deployed remotely or on-prem. And kind of like what we were saying with the control panel, you can control that core remotely and be able to stream back your multi-viewers. There's built-in encoding and decoding inside of the cores. Using your creator software, you can pull back some multi-views to be able to cut your show remotely without the core even being anywhere near you. And that's actually how we do a lot of our remote demos, just like what you were talking about. Our main cores are in Hoffman Estates in Chicago, and then we just carry either a stream deck around with us or a little panel, and we can give a live demo and stream back all of our multi-views, and you can see the cameras live in the studio. And yeah, that's how we execute a lot of shows.
Yeah, now one of the things I want to stress is the sheer flexibility of this product is just insane. I like to say, you can produce video in the venue or out of the venue, which means I can be driving the video that's going out to an OTT production or to YouTube or for people on their phones to be on TikTok or whatever formats they need. And I can also power everything that's inside the venue for the screens that are inside the venue. So, put video anywhere inside or outside the venue, or also I like to say anywhere, any shape, any size, any format, anywhere with Kairos. So that's two big things I just threw at you. Let's bring up this mix and match screen. You can just talk about that.
Yeah, so because Kairos is GPU based, it in a Linux based server, you're able to actually mix and match different frame rates at any given time. So it doesn't have to be your standard 1080p 5994 and all those signals need to be that. It can bring in 29.7, it can bring in 59, it can bring in 12G signals all at once, and then be able to add frame syncs to all of those and be able to also mix and match on the output side. So even like you were talking about with, say you have a sports broadcasting show that you're mixing in venue, LED wall or a stream at the same time can be going to Instagram in a 9:16 format instead of a 16:9, and you can set all that up internally inside of Kairos.
And the other thing is I want to say that because it's software and GPU based, it's really future-proof. If I buy a Kairos today and some format takes off for some new format of social media, or maybe someone starts selling TVs that are vertical that we start watching in our house, I'm not suggesting we want them to say if it were to happen, you'd be able to produce video for that content and just add that as a software download down the road that would add that capability. Now, it might cost you money, it might be free, but my point is that Kairos can grow and expand. Just like on this sheet, it shows Dante compatible now, where 6 months ago, Dante wasn't on the list. So it's just amazing how it just keeps growing and going. And I got to compliment the people who had the guts to make a completely open architecture that was GPU driven, because, GPUs are what drove the ability to do the crypto business for a while, and this is going to be like an NVIDIA speech, but it's not. And then it's driving AI, and really what we found is the way GPUs process information, especially video information with the CUDA technology, they're just better. And it just allows the system to be doing that many more things simultaneously than you'd be stuck with if you had traditional hardware or were CPU dependent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that makes a professional broadcast like a sports thing is you get cameras. And we all know the more, every director and every producer of sports will say, the more cameras, the better. If I have 6 cameras, I need 8. If I have 2, I need 4. If I have 12, I need 20. And if I'm doing the NFL or the Olympics, I need 50 in a stadium.
Yeah.
Well, someone's got to be able to see all those cameras, figure out which one's got the right shot and where it goes. And I love the way you have the multi-viewer set up there, because on the fly, I can change my multi-view so I can see what's big, what's little, what's small, what am I looking at. And I think in the past, people have spent $15,000, $20,000 just on a multi-viewer alone to do that part of the Kairos function that's integrated and better than all those standalone multi-viewers.
Yes. Yeah. All the multi-views are free. You're not having to pay extra for that. You can scale the multi-views, all the different pips, up to 36 pips per multi-view. And you'll notice even in the bottom left down, or I guess the right multi-view that says wide program,
Yep.
because Kairos can do that GPU flexible aspect ratio, it's able to even show that in your multi-view. So no need to stitch your MEs together to be able to create a widescreen. It's one scene, as what we call scenes is basically an ME. It's one ME that can present that to the end user, and you're actually using it in real time in that specific raster. So the multi-views are extremely flexible. They have user buttons to be able to recall from even macros on the fly to even change them up. Audio is built in, all kinds of different features, vector scopes, waveform monitors, kind of whatever you need.
And what I think is incredible, and let's talk about this layer-based system with the virtual unlimited MEs, because it's not just unlimited MEs. I can put those MEs anywhere I want on the screen, like you said, with scenes. So I could be producing from the same ME, same system, vertical video for those vertical displays that may be in the stadium. Maybe I have those long, thin displays, along the balcony. I might have a scoreboard that's got a big square on it, but then on each side, I show some advertising or coming events or stats from other out-of-town ball games. And it's also got the ability, if I wanted to drive different content, to put it, let's say, in the suites that was shown in there. Or if I was just a simple, let's say I'm a D3 college, I could have a set of video that's being used for in-venue, which might not be that much, but I might be streaming to vertical for the kids who like the phone. I could be going to YouTube or anything that's what we now stream. I could be doing it on OTT so that people can watch it on a big screen TV. I can also be doing it where my scouts can be watching the game, and they can be feeding a certain, hey, just keep this camera isolated on this kid. I want to watch him the whole game. It's amazing what can be done. And what I just said sounds so complicated, but it's not with Kairos.
No, it's not complicated. It's kind of gone are the days of having to think through almost my show when it comes to my ME resources. I don't have to think through how many keyers I have at any given moment for this one ME. You just honestly copy and paste, or just right mouse click, add new layer, and you have another key, or I have another scene or another ME for that screen, for that display, for that 9:16 Instagram feed that I'm trying to feed. And then at the same time, people could be using just a Stream Deck to control one of those screens versus someone using a large operating switcher for maybe an iMac show, all at the same time, and there's no stepping on each other. And that is really the power and the flexibility that Kairos brings to the table.
Yeah, we love it. We've got some slides that go into this canvas because I think it's so important. So the first one we kind of discussed, I don't need an extra set of hardware to do my multi-screen, multi-views. But then again, I also have all these megapixels that I can show any shape video I want, 8K, 4K, 2K, HD, and I can scale, or I can pull a section of a video into the canvas, whichever I want to do. And that's pretty dramatic for where this product exists. A lot of times to do this, you would need racks of different switchers, one doing this part, one doing that part. And Kairos does it all. So talk about that a little bit, how you can not only mix and match the formats, actually pull any lower format out of a bigger format image. Did I say that right?
Yeah. It's really, up down cross conversion is all happening, all internal inside of the box. We've really pulled, two different systems under like one hood of a system. So people, they have access to all of those different resources, which gives them the ability to, one operator can control multiple things at once. And we're seeing that a lot is, people are asked to do more with less staff, and it needs to be simple enough that one person could potentially operate a whole show and operate screen content all at the same time. So keeping everything under one hood kind of allows people to be able to control all those different elements and all those different environments of their show simply and easily through the Keros platform.
Now I want to set some expectations. Kairos is a broadcast level product that can be brought down to smaller venues, smaller schools, especially people who want to start and scale. But there's two parts of using something. The first part is getting it set up and going. And if you're a venue looking to get this, number one, we're not going to ship it to you directly. You got to talk to one of our local dealers who's going to help you put the whole system together. But also, it comes with a level of commissioning that Panasonic Services does to get the whole thing set up. So that's the complicated part of it. But the easy part of it is in doing that setup, they can set up a show that can be done by student volunteers or a more experienced person, depending on what their abilities are, because you can customize the interface, the shortcuts, the keyboard on what you're doing. Like you said, I can mix a show that's as easy to do with a Stream Deck, or I can have a show that needs multiple panels for people to run, because I'm really getting into some high-end complex stuff. But learning and using Kairos is really pretty straightforward and simple. And what I really love about it is it mixes the tactile and the touch world. So to me, that means if I'm an older school guy who's been operating stuff at a venue, I can still use it. I'm not afraid of it, right? But if I'm a younger operator who's learned about, grew up with an iPad and likes touch and stuff like that, I can use that. But I really think what happens is we realize that the best combination is I have that iPad kind of touch ability to physically interact with the environment I'm creating on the Kairos, but then I have a traditional control panel to make everything efficient, let muscle memory take over, because when you're mixing a sporting event, it happens fast, baby. You got to really be on your toes, and it's not something where you can be drilling into touch necessarily every time. You really do need to have that show like configured, taking full advantage. When people see a panel that's got 6 rows of 30 buttons or whatever, they get a little panicky. And I'm like, when you're doing sports, that's really important, because you need front level access to whatever. If it's a ball game and you've got a camera that's on the center fielder, you want to be able to pull that camera up when that ball's still in the air. If they're turning the double play, you want to cut from second base to first base. Boom, boom. You got to know where those shots live, and that's muscle memory, and that's experience, and that's a broadcast product, of which Kairos is. But it doesn't. I'm not trying to scare people away. I'm trying to explain to people how this product can be used at the simpler levels and scale up to the higher levels, especially for sports. And I think I need you to make it less confusing than I just said, because I think I just confused people. So take it away and boil it down a little better than I just did.
Panasonic and even Broadfield is going to be there to help, walk you through the process. Panasonic, we send somebody on site, we'll walk you through the whole process of how to set up the panel. And once you've kind of realized, honestly, the software element of programming your show is the easiest part. And then it's just really like, how do I want my panel to be laid out? So if you have a specific way that you like your panel to look in a traditional switcher format, no problem. We can set it up that way. But you might have some creative ideas of how to, make that different, or make it, I've never had that kind of flexibility before. So the panel really does add, a lot of speed and efficiency. And there's feature sets in the panel that kind of simplify the workflow even. A lot of people, not only from a panel standpoint, but even from a protocol standpoint, a lot of people might be scared of SMPTE 2110. They don't really know. Yeah. Even anything IP based, they might be a little weary of. So, we have our own SDI boards that you can put into the system. Which is, it makes things super simple and an easy approach to get into it. And then the system's upgradable. So, at any given point, you want to start doing 2110 or NDI or SRT, you can, especially with the sports world. We have a lot of people that are using even our cameras that have built-in SRT, and they're sending their people out with their cameras, streaming SRT feeds directly back to the Keros core, and you have all your camera feeds, being encoded into the Keros platform, and then I can send it right back out to whatever CDN or platform I'm using.
Now, Keros really is a platform more than just a product. So we have some products that we sell that go along with the Keros. I just want to talk about it a little bit so people can understand. And that is one of the beautiful parts of Keros is its baseband and its IP. So we've got our partners, Matrox, who does their Convert IP product, which can turn any baseband signal into any form of IP, including 2110. Imagine sells these big server banks that can take 16, 24, different baseband signals and IP, and it can be in and out configured as you need. And then, we talked about screens in the venue, and we've got apps and video walls now available. So if you want to do a venue, whether it's a small little venue that's just looking for, a little scoreboard to put outside, or maybe inboard in your basketball arena, or a whole thing where you want to deck out a whole big stadium with, hundreds of square feet of video wall stuff, we have access to that for you. And once again, these are products that you're just not going to order it and it's going to ship. There's going to be a consultation process. It's going to be designed into your whole Keros workflow on what you need for this other stuff. But I wanted to bring this up because you don't have to go all IP or all SDI. Keros can grow and scale as you need. You brought up an amazing point. I can emulate whatever kind of control surface my operators are used to. So if they really love, they've been on a Ross or something else, we can emulate the way that was. By the same regards, as they get to know and love Keros, we know they're going to start wanting to take advantage of some of the stuff that Keros delivers that these other systems didn't. And their control surface will start changing as their own way of producing shows evolves. But that's the real beauty of a software-based system like this. Not only can it grow and scale by me adding to it with stuff, but it can grow and scale so my people are more comfortable with what I'm doing, and it can grow with you and stay manageable for the people producing and directing the show. Your show may start where you have a production team of maybe 5 or 6 people, and it's 2 cameramen and everything else is a PTZ camera. And who knows, maybe the program's successful, you're winning some games, you're going to be in the division title game, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, we're renting, we're going to have 20 cameras for the big game, we got it at home, all of a sudden the local TV station wants to pick it up, and things like, holy moly. Well, we could scale the system like that, right? I mean, it's purchasing stuff and scaling, but I'm saying it's not like I got to throw anything out. It's not like I got to climb in walls and rewire everything because it's IP. It's so easy to scale. And I think you're revolutionizing video mixing and switching, but I think when it comes to sports, that I can have the video be in venue or out of venue. I can have it any size, any shape, anywhere, and I support any kind of video signal, IP or a baseband. It's really taking things to another level. And I want to compliment you as one of the product guys on the job you've done. You've done a pretty good job on this show too. So it's SportStream. Today we went into one of the higher end, solutions we offer, but that's the cool thing about sports. It can be as simple as you're a guy with 2 cameras and you're mixing it through like a YOLO box, or you could be a school that got a grant or has a budget for it. You want to put in a whole new system, or maybe you're having a stadium redone like Northwestern and you want to put this in. I'm not saying Keros is in there. I'm just giving an example of a stadium that's being redone. And it's just cool what can happen here. So anytime we have a guest on the show, I always like to end it by giving the guest the last word to talk about the show, the product, whatever you want. So floor is yours, buddy. Take it away.
Yeah, Keros is a really powerful platform. And one of the big things is that, we're always listening for customer feedback. So always wanting to develop the product and hear out our end users and make sure that we're developing the product that they want to use. So the nice part about Keros is, you buy it today, it might not look like that in 3 months or 6 months because it's software. Your switcher isn't baked in, so new features are constantly being released. New updates are constantly being released. So we like listening to the customer feedback. So we're really here for you and trying to develop a product that really fits the need of the end user.
Awesome job, buddy. Thank you for being on the show. Peyton, you were a great guest. I was going to ask you if there's any new features coming that you can tell me about, but I know you can't because really right now we have the IBC show going on with Europe, which was kind of a crazy thing on how we were getting people to be on the show. So thank you for giving us that time and just cool stuff going on. So this is Gary for SportStream. thank you for tuning in to our 3 days of dedicated sports programming. We'll see you on the internet on the Video Guys show next Tuesday. Peace.
Thanks, Gary.
That was a great video with Peyton from Panasonic Connect talking about the Kairos. I see that some people have asked some questions about the training, and Jim put in a link so you can get more information on training if that is something that you would like to do. Next up, we have Janelle Moorfield, who's going to be joining from LiveView, and she's going to talk about their lightweight production systems, as well as LiveView's Cloud Studio and how it relates to sports production. I did just want to quickly mention, even though it's not necessarily a sports production, we used an LU300. We actually used multiple LU300s with the lightweight production bundle that you're going to hear about in a minute here. And we used that for Infocom to go live from our booth at Infocom earlier this year. And so we had 2 LU300s down in Vegas. And then we were able to bring both of those feeds into a cloud production workflow and then be able to add graphics from our Flowix HTML5 graphics into LiveView's Cloud Studio and be able to have those 2 LU300s to have different angles from the show floor to go live for about an hour during Infocom each day. So it's a really great tool, and we have firsthand experience with it. So, you know, Gary's going to mention it when he's talking to Janelle, but if you have any questions about the LiveView lightweight production bundles, definitely just feel free to give us a call and we'll give you all the information. So without further ado, let's have Janelle tell you all about it.
All right, day 3 of SportStream. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. Today we have Janelle from LiveView on the show, and she's going to talk about some advanced LiveView workflows using LiveView technology. Now, on day 1, we talked a little about the solo and how that's great, you know, for streaming your own kids' athletics or youth athletics from a field, or just if you want a single camera shot to come off. But this show isn't just about, you know, cellular bonding, a single video stream. This is about actually doing a remote workflow in a sports environment using LiveView technology, which is hardware and software all together. So Janelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gary. Very excited to be here.
So we're going to talk about that ecosystem with the central management, contribution, production, and distribution. So take it up first. Tell us a little about yourself and why you're the person doing the show today.
Sure. So I'm Janelle Moorfield. I'm the VP of the sports team and the sales team here at LiveView in the US. I've been at LiveView for a little over 6 years and focused primarily on building out solutions for the sports market, which could include teams, leagues, broadcasters, production companies, college athletics, both the news around sports as well as the actual primary production of a sport itself. So I came when LiveView had just launched the LU600 and was sort of dabbling with REMI production, and you know, through the COVID years of everyone sort of embracing LiveView technology. So it's been an amazing journey. And honestly, what I'm about to introduce today is probably the coolest and most innovative thing we've really brought to market since I started at LiveView. So we're launching this officially at IBC. So this is like our sort of new formal way of saying, you know, LiveView is not just contribution encoders. We're offering the end-to-end contribution, production, and distribution solution for sports.
Awesome. Now, you guys are the inventors of IP bonding technology, but I want to talk about the pedigree. A lot of people watch the Olympics. How many LiveView backpacks do you think were at the Olympics in Paris this past month?
Wow, that's a great question, because we had about 200 that we just probably rented, and you know, just south of 200. Then we had about all of our existing customers bringing. I mean, we had I don't know. I want to say around maybe 500, if I had to guess, maybe less.
100.
But
so when we're
hundreds.
talking about these solutions, these are proven solutions and proven technologies that are used on the highest levels of sports production. Now we're bringing it down to customers who have more limited budgets, but still want to produce that same kind of show, and also who recognize that they can't get a production van full of people or a truck full of people to an event, but you don't have to anymore. So before we get into that, talk a little bit about LRT and the little magic that is the whole LiveView cloud.
Of course. So we were the pioneer of really bringing video over the public internet to broadcasters reliably and high quality. And we did this with a technology that we invented that some people, refer to as bonded cellular or IP bonding, but it's the idea that we are taking as many network interfaces, that first mile onto the public internet, bonding them together and creating lots of resiliency protocols in our transmission. So we have a proprietary transport protocol we call LRT, LiveView Reliable Transport. But this is the secret sauce behind everything that is touching our ecosystem of solutions. And it's the reason we use something like this is because we're very much aware that cellular networks by themselves are unreliable. So in order to make those reliable, it's not just a matter of bonding them, but it's tightly coupling the network interfaces with the encoding and putting in resiliency techniques like in the next slide, packet ordering, forward error correction, acknowledge and resend, adaptive bitrate encoding. This is all very like behind the scenes under the hood, but it's what makes our technology and our solutions so robust in sports. And I say this because a lot of people think bonded cellular, why not just, it's just a bunch of cellular networks, it's just a connection. But it's more than that, right? The encoding is a really important part of how we are able to transport video specifically live over the public internet using whatever network interface is available. It could just be Ethernet with cellular as backup, which is a common application of LiveView in sports, because a lot of these venues have Ethernet, and at least they've got the backup. Or it could be sort of spreading the signal and duplicating those packets across multiple networks like cellular, low orbit satellite like a, Starlink or some other LEO type provider. It could be, traditional satellite IP uploads or standard cellular. So it's really any network interface.
I think one of the things that's important to talk about here is we all will have watched a video on our phone, be it a live game or a video that's streaming on Netflix. And I know I stream live sports a lot, and you could be 3 people in the same room streaming the same live sport download, and you're all at different parts of the game, because the signals are not always reliable. So what you guys do with all the technology is not only you splitting it up between the carriers, but you're really making sure everything's synced perfectly. You're handling any lost or dropped packets to make up for them. And if you're doing a live sporting event, delays are our enemy. We need low latency, but we also need it to be really smooth because we're watching action. It's not a talking head there. It's, a sporting event. And if you miss the goal or you miss the pitch, it's a big problem. So we really love that your technology has that. LRT is the secret sauce. I love that line, and we use it all the time. And let's talk about how now we're not just the secret sauce of the bonding, but we're actually expanding to be a complete sports production solution. So it's more than just bonding.
Absolutely. So we've evolved our solutions to catch up with where the market is today. And there's a huge demand for content, but there isn't a huge budget for content, right? Like I feel like there's a ton of long tail sports or sort of tier 2, tier 3 sports that really they've got some sponsorships, they've got maybe a paywall or something to distribute their content, but producing it is still very heavy lifting in terms of budgeting. So we came about this solution is what we're dubbing lightweight sports production, because that's what it is. It's very minimalistic, easy to use, turnkey, and it's a combination of 3 of our major pillars of service offerings: our contribution encoders, our LiveView Studio cloud production solution, and the distribution element, which is a combination of like streaming distribution. Many providers have to send to an OVP, OTT network, maybe social media, maybe multiple channels at once, or even back to a decoder. So on the contribution side, up here, you kind of take a look at a snapshot of the LiveView encoders. This is a mix of portable encoders, 300S and the 800. These are sort of our staples right now in sports. Many sports organizations are using this primarily for primary production, REMI production, and cloud production. And recently we've introduced a suite of rack mount encoders as well, because we're seeing a lot of deployment happening in cases, in vehicles and trucks, flyaway type setups where they don't necessarily need a backpack. They really want to have something a little bit more elegant racked into a rack area.
And the funny thing is that I think you guys are a major reason this has changed in our industry. The truck isn't that 18-wheeler full of gear anymore. It's like an Amazon Sprinter where there's one guy, you know, or two guys running the show and stuff. That's when you say lightweight, I think I want to stress that lightweight doesn't mean it's not high performance. Lightweight really means it's easy, it's less overhead from the taxing point of view of the systems and resources you need, and it's lightweight from the amount of people and the amount of hardware you actually have to deploy at the sporting event. So we're using lightweight as a term of endearment and as a feature that's by design to make it lightweight and easier and simpler for you to use.
Absolutely. And this wouldn't be possible without the next element of what we're offering in this package is LiveView Studio. So some of you guys may know we launched LiveView Studio early last year. It was a very, elegant solution at the time, really excellent for podcasts that want to do live programming, post-game, pre-game interviews, press conferences, and the like. But Studio 2.0 is a completely different animal, and this is really brand new. You guys are hearing it for the first time, but this is, truly the most exciting thing we've ever brought to market, and I'm not exaggerating. This is 100% cloud native. This is a virtualized production control room that's accessible in a browser. You log in as a director, TD, producer, graphics operator, whoever you may be from any location, and can operate a production as if it was in a truck or from a central control room, if you guys are familiar with Remy Productions. What we've brought to this product is you can support up to 12 live sources, which can include LiveView sources. It could include, other encoders, RTMP streams. We've launched completely frame accurate live switching. So with time code data, we can actually make sure every single live source is frame synced in the production environment. We've also introduced, which we'll talk about, instant replay. This is a huge one. So with variable speed playback, you can actually have 2 to 4 replay channels available to you for, as most sports productions need. People love replay. You can also introduce
I want to comment on that because when we talk sports at a high level, you've got multi-camera, you've got it. You've got graphics and scoreboards, you've got it. And then you've got to have, if you're really going to be at the next, you have to have the instant replay. And what I think is so amazing is not only do you have instant replay, but it's pretty easy to use. And I don't know if we get a demo of that later, but we'll definitely, maybe after it's in production, we'll have you back on the show or one of your demo guys, and we'll really pound on LiveView Studio 2.0. And I want to mention that we used LiveView Studio to actually go remote from a trade show, and it was phenomenal, and it was really cool. And we had James back home producing Adam was shooting it at the show floor in Vegas. And that is a very tough room to get even a cell phone signal from. And we streamed up and back, and it really worked great. So I can't wait to see all the feature set of Live Studio 2.0. And then the other thing is that talk about the multicast a little bit, because I think that's so important, because we're watching sports on a phone. We're watching it on a big screen TV. We're watching it on a computer screen, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, part of what LiveView Studio can do is the distribution element. So, typically in a production, especially in like the linear fashion, right? You're pulling up a fiber line or a satellite truck or maybe a LiveView encoder, and you're sending that feed to maybe a master control or some, distribution center. So what Studio can do is become that distribution. So it can allow you to stream to maybe a platform like TikTok, where you've got 16:9 aspect ratio, and you can even frame the video so you have different publishing points and different perspectives and different, delivery to wherever your fans are. Stream to X, stream to Facebook Live, as well as feed and distribute to another LiveView decoder, which is something that's very unique, is that you can actually feed the content from the cloud directly into your traditional workflow if you've got one, or if you're a packager and you're wanting to send to, one of our fiber networks that we work with. So it's really up to 30 streaming destinations as possible.
Cool. So let's dig into the interface itself a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of give a peek because some of people, may have seen Studio before, but we've completely redone the user interface. So I want to kind of give little tidbits of what it looks like. So LiveView Studio, again, browser based. It's sort of a layer hierarchy. So you have your live, your graphic elements, your live sources. You can actually, customize this based on who you are as the, contributor of this production. So it's a very elegant, simple look. As if you're edited anything, you're familiar with this sort of layout. You also have hotkeys. So a lot of people are, okay, do I really want to like click and cut between my live sources? No, I want like a Stream Deck or, save some hotkeys to like do my normal cuts between the different camera angles. So that's all something you can customize, and you can customize even to the point where you're doing transition blocks. So set up stingers, customize your dissolves and different wipes and different things you need to do when you cut between your camera angles, especially when you feed into your replay or something like that. So this makes it very simple. And of course, there's the preview and program logic, as most people are familiar with hot switch options. And you can set up your shot ahead of cutting to the live programming. So this is the, as well as replay, right? Let's not forget replay. The biggest element is you can actually enter an entire different screen to enter replay mode. And it actually captures all, if you have 2 replay channels, 4 replay channels, depending on how you set it up, all the angles of that event that just happened. And you can do a quick backup to 30 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. It's recording the entire broadcast. You can go all the way to the very beginning if you're doing sort of a highlight clipping type of setup. And you can cut between the different angles that have been recorded in your replay, put it in your playlist, do a transition and play it out. So this interface, it's really is worth having a demo artist kind of walk through. I will take you up on that offer, because I really think there's nothing else on the market just that is like this. And
if I have a touch interface, can I use a touch screen interface if my laptop supports it? That's so cool.
Yes,
we talked about the
absolutely.
distribution. I jumped ahead a little bit, but I think that
It's okay.
it's so important. One of the things you hit on is that I can know where I'm going. So if I want to go to TikTok, it's vertical video, and I know to get graphics that fit with vertical video. If I'm having the wide angle on a different screen, I can have my graphics laid out differently. I can actually be creating my content for all 3 or 10 of those specifically. And that's just, to me, just amazing. That's something that, to do in a studio is very expensive.
Exactly. And most importantly, and I want to emphasize this, we have the ability to put in SCUDdy 35. So if you guys are doing localized ads and distributing to one of your OBP channels, this platform can allow for that. So there's, when you adopt something like this, you do see, true, revenue returns, because SCUDdy markers are something that, I know broadcasters are familiar with, but it's becoming a more and more widespread thing for these streaming sides of productions and live productions. Because I mean, if those of you guys are familiar, it allows you to have the whatever platform you're streaming on localized ad to the user. That's watching. So it's and making sure that those are scheduled appropriately in your broadcast for live is great. So
the local hardware store can inject itself into the home field game where everyone else is seeing a more generic ad.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly. So that's what we say: lightweight but heavy hitting.
Great call. So let's talk about the actual workflow, and it's actually a bundle we have available where we've actually made this the lightweight sports production bundle. So walk us through it.
Absolutely. So I thought it was a good idea to kind of give a high level overview, right? Like, why do we call it lightweight? Lightweight is because of this workflow, right? It's simple: contribution, production, distribution, all in one. There's no real complexity. We have comm solutions, of course, or, those sorts of things are on top of this, because it's very important to communicate to the field crew, your home crew, and all of that. But it is truly from ground to cloud to the crowd, as we like to say. So simply put, this is sort of the workflow. And really, why is it lightweight? In the next slide, you kind of look at sort of the advantages of adopting something like this. It's very much a turnkey. You can scale this, right? You spin this up at any time for any type of production. It is very cost effective. Think about how much is, investing in a production facility and hardware equipment, as well as traveling people, maintenance, all of these things. There's advantages of using something in the cloud to keep costs low. It's also, like I always say, like LiveView is lazy LiveView. We're very easy to use, very user friendly, and this lightweight production solution in Studio is no different. It's very much intended for sort of anybody to adopt and go live within minutes. And most importantly, it's very much high production, right? It's quality is most important to us, as well as support. We are hands-on with training. We want to get you guys to be, experts in the product as soon as you sign on. And that's why our partners are so important, is because they agree similarly. So, looking at the differences you guys can see here, it's really, because we're using bonded cellular, so simple to, have the contribution be from anywhere, right? Because cellular exists nearly everywhere. So in the field, you don't have to worry about sourcing Ethernet all the time. It natively feeds into LiveView Studio, so you don't need to worry about a decode physical server or a decode server in the cloud. LiveView Studio accepts native LRT feeds, all frame synced. And I put together kind of like a peek of like what this might mean in a pricing scenario, because everyone's like, what does this cost?
I want to talk about
It's
this before you dig into it, because I think one of the things that we hear a lot from people is the pressure that they don't have that big amount to outlay on capital anymore. So instead of CapEx, as they call it on Wall Street, it's OpEx, and it's paying, and expensing it. But what I love about this is that I can scale that OpEx to the amount of shows I'm actually going to do. Obviously, someone who's going to do 30 events is different than someone who's doing, a 12-game football season, or someone who maybe needs a little bit all year, but they know with the 1 month when the playoffs are, they're going to need a lot more, because now they're playing, 3-4 games a week instead of 1 or 2 a week. So that ability to spool up my expense side to match the event that I'm creating side means my revenues grow and my costs grow to support them. But when my revenues come back down to earth, I can lower my expenditure. So now you can go into the details of an example of how you actually do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, with this combination of lightweight production, we've sort of looked at different bundles that we might see in the field. So here's an example of sort of a 4-camera live production where you're using a couple replay channels, you're distributing to social media, and you probably have maybe 30 events in the year, like a typical, season for a 4-camera production. So this breaks down to having the technology that supports the contribution, and this also includes data, by the way. Contribution, production, and distribution technology elements breaks out to $2,200 per event. Like, not including, of course, personnel, the travel, the cost, but just the service as an example. I mean, this is a competitive price in the marketplace for everything that you're getting. And normally we're not a company that like broadcasts pricing. We're somebody who's kind of like, let's customize it. But I thought this was a great example because we did this for a customer, and I said, you know what? This is the number that you have to keep in your head, right? Like per event, to do something like a replay with 4 cameras and have all the elements that you need for all the production aside from people.
Now I want to tell you something. I rarely criticize a slide deck like this, but I love it. But I would like to see minus personnel, travel, and gear costs. Why? I don't have to buy a production truck. I only have to send my camera people there with cameras. I'm not having to send a whole team of people on location for the event, and travel therefore is a lot less expensive because the cameraman can arrive that day. It's not like I have to set up a whole production, studio for 2 days before the event and pay for all those costs. So where you have to do the personnel, the travel, and the gear costs, it's so much less and lighter, because really we only have to send the essential people to shoot and capture the sports. The whole thing can be mixed at home. It can be mixed you can have one guy who just mixes 3 different games a day. He does the morning game, the afternoon, and the evening game, or he could be doing from 2 different countries. He could be doing a soccer game that's, local because he's in the U.S. And then he can also be mixing a soccer game that maybe their U19 travel team went to Italy and they're playing a game, the girls are playing in Italy. He could be producing both those from one guy without having to travel. And you can't be in 2 places at one time, but you can be in one place producing show after event after event after event in sports. And I think that's part of that whole spooling up thing. But it really allows you to have much less people and travel expenses in producing these sports. So you might actually offset that 2,200 event in travel and personnel costs alone.
Absolutely. Like I always say, I wish I had a calculator. Like whatever you're budgeting right now for your productions, like let me compare it to this, because I guarantee, we've had this done. We did this exercise with the regional sports network who did Remy production for one of their spring training games, and it was 70% cost savings compared to the traditional method. I mean, that's
and
huge.
You don't have a calculator, but I want to stress on this is not a buy now button type thing. What you're going to do is you get on the phone with us or a LiveView dealer. You're going to talk about what you want to do, what you want to produce. We're going to bring LiveView into it. We're going to customize an entire lightweight solution that fits for you and your current budget. And we're going to go after the scalability and the expandability. So we're going to meet you there. And what it means is you're not going to be paying for anything you don't need. And you're going to have exactly what you do need at a price that is far more affordable when you look at all the costs involved in producing sports, especially when they're not a home game.
Absolutely. Love that. Love it. So
cool.
Next, I thought, let me just stop talking for a minute and actually have a customer who has adopted lightweight production and using the solution and play out a little case study for you guys. Never before seen, first seen here production. So hopefully we can play that
Very
here.
Cool.
We're here for the Champions of Change basketball game. Doug Baldwin, Cliff Averill, and Michael Bennett. Not only do they highlight everything going on in the community, but they use their platform to supercharge other organizations that are out here constantly doing the work.
The Champcast is what you're watching right now, and thanks to our friends at Alaska Airlines, presenters of the Champcast, they will match your donations for the first $5,000 donated this evening. So you know what you got to do.
Gen X, baby boomers, I know we just now finding out about that QR code. You know what I mean? But you can grab that phone and just get right there.
BECU Poll for Champions of Change voting is now open. Process, start making your voices heard for who you think deserves to be the MVP of tonight's game.
Back to you guys. So what we're doing at Champions of Change is really trying to spark the sustainability and that fuel the fire and the flame for these organizations to continue to do the great work that they're doing.
And actually, he joins us right now, Mr. Matt Hasselbeck. Matt, what's up, man? He is. Number 8, what's up, baby? I told you, Stacey Joe, it would come down to the wire.
Will with the Hail Mary.
And that's the game, everybody.
The game.
Everybody's healthy. Doug Baldwin, Team Baldwin loses 5-1.
Thank you again for taking part of this. Thank you for joining us. Hey, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. And we'll see y'all next year.
Wow, that was so cool. And it's just an example of what you could do with it, with this lightweight solutions, and very excited. And once again, call us up. We'll get you together with a dealer with LiveView. We'll talk about what you're producing, what you need is, how many cameras, how many replays you need, and you're going to be able to have your own customized solution that can grow with you as you grow, or scale down is, unfortunately, sometimes the popularity of our team. We don't have the same great season, and we don't have the same amount of things. We don't always make the playoffs every year. We wish we did, but we don't.
Yeah, and just in that theme, right? It's, Gary's right. Like, we customize solutions are the number one thing. We're consultative. We're technology, solutions providers, and to empower you. So whether that's Remy production, on-site production, cloud production, I try to say that lightweight production is really anything you want to make of it. Our goal here is to, bring quality up, efficiency up, scalability up, and costs down. So, and getting you what you need is important. So any one of these sort of solutions, we're happy to customize. And I have an example of something we've done recently with, some of you guys might be familiar with the Savannah Bananas. That's a fun sort of sport in itself. If you guys aren't familiar, the Bananas, they're out of Tennessee. Yeah, so they kind of created this banana ball bonanza type sport entertainment fan first experience. And they were super successful in their home ballpark, and they decided they've got a huge YouTube presence, a huge TikTok presence. People were really just connecting with this organization, and they took their production on the road, and they did exactly what Gary, sort of detailed. Is they said, okay, like here is what it would cost me to do, a traditional production. It seems very expensive. We're streaming this on YouTube. It's really for the fans. Like, we want to be nimble. We want to be creative. I need to be innovative and flexible. And so they came to LiveView and they said, listen, what can you do? And so we provided this sort of workflow of Remy production, produce everything out of your central ballpark like you typically do, but all the fields, all the road games, which were sold out in minutes, by the way. It was like a Taylor Swift Eras concert. These tickets are harder to get, I'm pretty sure. And it's been incredibly successful. They've doubled the amount of games they did this year. They'll even do more next year. So it's a perfect example of like a sport that maybe it's not aired on linear TV, but man, do the fans want to access it, and they want high quality and they want creativity. So that's what we enabled.
And getting back to that lets you build tighter engagement with your team and your community where it comes from. And it's great if your team's Ohio State and you have you're on national TV every day, but let's face it, we're all not, and we don't have that, but it doesn't mean you can't produce some great stuff. And I really like the fact that you can do that for OTT or YouTube specifically, because that's where the fan base lives now. It's great that everyone watches Monday Night Football. It's great that we all watch the Olympics on TV like we're showing this, but far more sports get consumed on a device, locally, on a computer, on YouTube, what have you, So it's so cool that we have that ability to do that. Let's I know we talked about it at the beginning of the show a little bit, but let's double back about the Olympics, because you guys really, big presence. Kudos.
Oh yeah, and I hope you guys watched NBC Sports. I watched a lot on Peacock, and it was fantastic. Those guys, that team at NBC are so creative, so innovative, and they give the fans everything they want. I watched on Peacock, and I love to show the highlights right when I entered in a program and got to see everything just before I get to go to the live programming. And I just loved what they did this year. And I'm a big fan of the Olympics in general.
And one of the things I like to tell people they don't realize is that the camera people were there and the talent was there, but a lot of the people who were like the in-studio commentators were not in Paris. They were in their local studios that were set up. It was a great example of remote production. The other thing was cool, and I know you guys can do this, is just because you're the cameraman for me doesn't mean I can't. If I'm the away team, I can still feed it to the home team. I can feed it to a out of town, whatever. So you can share your broadcasts through LiveView also. And I don't know if we had a slide. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because I think it's so important.
Yes. No, it's incredibly important. So you're right. Supplemental coverage, right? The IBC, they have, their camera angles and they're covering the sports themselves, but everybody has a story to tell that's maybe more based on the US market or, Latin America market. But there's so much content. Like I said, there's hundreds of LiveView units out in the field for Olympics. We have a platform called LiveView Matrix, which allows you to dynamically share content, live content between content creators. So, with NBC Sports, they have Telemundo, they've got all of these other, local partner affiliates in and around the countries, as well as even maybe local TV stations in the markets that some of the athletes are at. So they've got, parents that may not be at the Olympics, or they've got a, crowd of supporters in a certain school that the athlete had come from. And to make that story, get that compelling coverage, you can't just deploy all of your own gear, right? That's not sustainable. But the local TV station or the local freelancer, they're covering that story, and LiveView Matrix allows them to dynamically share that content with other broadcasters. And so they can bring in that content and make that a part of their story. And so you get access to a global directory of LiveView users. And in the beginning of the deck, I kind of detailed, we've got, thousands of LiveView customers across our ecosystem. So the ability to leverage that to share content is sort of opens up opportunity,
So, like,
especially in the international market.
some examples, I think even locally, a whole state that had a high school Division I, all those teams could be sharing content with each other and sharing games because you're going to be meeting up at some point and playing each other. And if you're a college, it's maybe a D3 school and you're working on recruiting. Well, if you can always tell the kids who your star is, hey, you make the team, your local TV station is going to get access to what you did over there. So they brag a little about
Absolutely.
you, your team gets some visibility, and all of a sudden, you're really pushing out content, which, let's face it, content's king. Everyone wants content. There's always a slow
Absolutely.
news day. So if they want to do a story on the 3 kids who made the lacrosse team, out in Nebraska or Denver or what have you, it's a great thing that you can do a story like that. And I got to say, this next slide really impresses me because you've got this is pros bragging about live view products. So I don't know that we need to read them all, but let's just leave it up there. You've got hockey, you got baseball, you got NASCAR, you got the New York Jets. I mean, we talked about the Olympics. The live view technology is used at every level of sports production and news production at that point. You can jump on it too in a way with these lightweight production bundles that fits your scope of the way you want to cover the game and does it on a budget level for no big outlays of big cash in the beginning and a way to scale based on how you use it. So you can start small and grow bigger. You don't have to start with the most elaborate package in the world. Give us a call. We'll get you together with a local LiveView dealer and LiveView themselves on the phone. You guys have great pre-sales team. I got to give kudos to that. I don't think we mentioned it enough, but your team is just fantastic. It's just really understanding the needs of the creator, whoever it is, the producer of the show, and making it a reality. So that's real wonderful stuff, and you guys do a great job with that. So thank you so much, Janelle. This was a great show. What's this URL code go to? Turn us on to that.
So this was just a landing page for Sports Solutions, kind of walking through lightweight production, some case studies, things that are relevant to, LiveView works in many different verticals, news, enterprise, house of worship. So we try to narrow the focus to sports and give you guys more details, things to download, that stuff like that.
Awesome. A great show. I think we really hit on the big, most important stuff for, what LiveView's doing. You guys have done a fantastic job with these lightweight bundles. I like to end my show by giving my guest a chance to recap. The floor is yours. If you want to talk about your favorite sports team, LiveView, whatever you want, the floor is yours.
Well, I just want to say that I also had a Matt Olson bobblehead here for the Braves since I saw that you have a bobblehead. I couldn't figure out how to put it behind me, so I just want to say go Braves. But I really think that LiveView has been the forefront of innovation for many years. That's why I joined the company. But I think what we're doing now is really going to bring another layer of enablement to sports. And I'm so excited to talk with any of you guys who are interested. And again, Broadfield's is fantastic partners. Their resellers, their partners are also very empowered and knowledgeable at LiveView products. So don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we're here to help. Most importantly.
Cool. Well, I want to thank you. You can see that I've got 3 bobbleheads here. Today's the last day, so I'm going to add a special prize. The first person to put in a comment or email or text us who those 3 stars are right there, the team and the sports, we're going to give you a special prize, a LiveView basketball. So give us a call, and we'll get that out to you. Not a call. You got to get the right answer. First person to time in only. And I know everyone's going to kill me now because they're going to say, now we have to ship a basketball someplace. I don't even know if we have one, but I'm sure you can find one for us, right, Janelle?
Yeah, I'll get you one. No worries.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you very much. This concludes our last vendor spotlight for SportStream. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We've done some great stuff with the SportStream. For those people who only caught the third day, not the other days, we've had vendor profiles. We've had shows where we're doing case studies, where we're talking to dealers across the country about some of the sports installations that they've done. And I just want to remind everyone that you come to us, you tell us what you want to do. We've got a lightweight LiveView bundle for you. So thank you so much, Janelle.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Thank you, James.
LiveView #1. High five.
Woo-woo.
Woo.
So that was a great video with Janelle and, oops, sorry, don't know what that is. That was a great video from Janelle. Just one thing that I want to correct. Gary said that that was going to be our last vendor spotlight. It is not. We will be doing Bird Dog after we talk with Matt Baker from Visual. Matt Baker is another system integrator. So we're going to talk about some success stories and again, some installation trends that are continuing to happen. And then after Matt Baker, that's when we will then go into our last last vendor spotlight, which will be Bird Dog talking about their new line of PTZ cameras. And then after that, we're going to talk about, do some questions and answers, and we're going to announce our prizes. So definitely make sure to stick around for that. So got a little bit longer to go here still. Thanks for sticking with us, and let's hear from Matt.
Hey, this is Jim back with you with another SportStream Spotlight. This time we invited Matt Baker from Visua to join us on the show and talk about some of the interesting case studies that he's doing for live sports production, fan engagement, and all the other real interesting projects that Visua gets involved with. Hey, Matt, how are you, man?
Hey, Jim. Thanks for having me this year. I'm excited, and it's kind of a cool thing you guys are doing for sports production, kind of unique setting. So I'm excited to be part of it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And, you know, we put this team together with Visua in mind. I know you guys do a lot in the sports production space. Matt has been a guest on some of our other virtual events like NDI November, where he's using a lot of the exciting technology that we have available here and incorporating them into sports stadiums and venues all over the country. So I knew you'd be a natural. Matt, for our audience who hasn't seen you join this show before, take a moment to introduce yourself and introduce Visua.
Yeah, so we are primarily an AV integration firm that, we install everything from large format LED video boards to audio systems, digital signage, and, what we'll talk about today is video production systems. But for the last couple of decades, as you said, primarily we've worked in the sports industry and really the minor league sports. We've kind of created our own little market there and had a lot of success in working with that industry. Minor league sports, minor league baseball, we've worked in for many years, minor league hockey and minor league soccer stadiums. We'll do everything from new stadium builds to renovations. And that's really been what Visua has been the last couple of decades. And a couple of years ago, we actually started a company called Virch, which is kind of part of what the trends are you'll see in the sports industry, and it's a remote production company. So with Virch, we'll do remote production for minor league baseball and hockey. This actually past summer, we produced over 2,000 broadcasts for minor league baseball, producing their shows for the MILB app, as well as some of the independent league teams as well, which we'll talk about here as we go throughout this. But so those Visua, AV integration, Virch, remote production, which is the trend of the world right now, sports production.
It absolutely is. And I have to tell you, just as a personal anecdote, I was watching the Met game a few weeks ago, and they went to a rain delay where they broadcast their minor league affiliate. And across the scroll on the bottom was the Virch logo doing the production and the graphics over that broadcast. So that was really cool to kind of see that pop up on my TV screen at home.
Yeah, that makes me very proud. We do a lot of the Mets. We do Brooklyn and then Binghamton and St. Lucie. So you'll see our logo all over those broadcasts.
Awesome. So, and then that's the topic I really want to jump right into. You already alluded to it a little bit in your introduction, but there are a lot of trends that we're seeing in the world of sports production. It was one of the reasons why we wanted to capitalize on it and do SportStream.us, because even the most seasoned broadcasters are looking to see how they can take advantage of these different trends and what technology is available and out there that allows them to kind of get the best that's available today. And that's why I'd like to kind of bring you on to talk about some of the specific projects you've worked on and how they kind of play into those questions. So why don't we start by talking about the one project you did in Lakeland with the Flying Tigers?
Yeah, so my perspective is going to come a lot from, like I said, the minor league sports and kind of what that industry has had to deal with really since COVID. It was kind of prior to COVID as well, but COVID kind of really ignited the fire of where the industry was going for how they were going to produce moving forward, because minor league baseball had this big requirement now. Hey, you need to stream all your shows. You need to have X amount of cameras. You need to be doing graphics, all these different things. And you have to do it now when all these teams, all their staffs got cut and they were trying to do things with less resources and operating cost. So they had to find a better way to do it and how to do that. So really what the industry moved towards is that remote production. And that's why we started Vert. So we'll talk a little bit about the Lakeland Flying Tigers, and they're kind of a unique situation because one of the trends above remote production that I've seen lately is you have so many cameras that these teams will put in their minor league affiliates. So the Detroit Tigers will put in their player development cameras. They'll put in their Hawkeye cameras for that advanced stats tracking. And then we'll put in our production cameras. And sometimes we'll put additional cameras on top of that for other unique things. Well, why do we have so many cameras when we can kind of utilize maybe one camera that can do multiple things? And I think that's what the power of NDI can do. So with the Lakeland Flying Tigers, we work directly with the Detroit Tigers and their player development team to put NDI cameras strategically throughout the ballpark. So there's about 7 player development cameras in that facility. And then we have about 4 production PTZ cameras in that. And what's unique about that is for production, we can tap into the player development cameras because we can view them NDI on the network. And for the player development, if they want to tap into the production cameras and get a unique view that they didn't get with one of their cameras, well, they can because our camera is accessible over the network via NDI. So that's exactly what we did with Lakeland. And we're seeing more and more of these affiliates looking to do because there's less cameras. You got one camera to manage, and you're not having to deal with multiple things being mounted in one spot. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gone into affiliate back in the day and there's like 4 cameras in one spot doing the exact same thing.
Right.
So that's been a really big thing we did at Lakeland. And going into a little bit about Virch and the remote production side that we did at Lakeland is you will see that desk right there in that picture. There's a TriCaster, there's a 3-play machine. There is a UI for a bird dog camera in there, but nobody sits in that spot during a game. You might think it's crazy. This literally looks like a ghost is operating their broadcast during that game. And that's what Virch is. They have the ability to access that and control that stuff locally. But remote production, everything's being done remotely in Wisconsin. So the other challenge that these minor league places, especially there in Lakeland, it's finding space to be able to put an operator and to be able to put the equipment in the facility. How do you actually have an operator doing multiple things? So we can just put our machines, our TriCaster stuff in the rack. We don't even need to have a monitor. We like to because it gives them control locally to send the feeds to the video board or do anything they need to do locally. But that's been a big trend in minor league baseball is reducing space for production because everything is being done remotely now and can be done remotely now. Yep. And what that allows these facilities to do is actually create more space for suites and activation areas that were once these large production rooms can be scaled down because the equipment's getting scaled. More equipment can do multiple features, multiple things, and can be done remotely. So for Lakeland, that's exactly what we did. We tied in their production cameras and the player development cameras, and we created a small space where they can control things locally if they need to, but everything there, the replay and the TriCaster for the switcher is all done remotely from our studio in Wisconsin.
That's amazing. You know, it's only a matter of time until one of these minor league ballparks takes the team mascot and puts him in front of the production desk and make it look like, you know, Tony the Tiger is running the show or something, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to tell you one quick funny story about this because I forgot to add a slide. I'm going to send you a picture of this. It's going to embarrass me about it, so you can put it in post production. Okay. But one of the cool things that our team in Fresno did is we have a green screen up in there, right in the production room, because we were able to create that space. And they have a little activation thing that they do, a little promotion in between innings, where everybody in the production room gets off their seat, goes in front of that green screen, and plays Rock Band and does like during a pitching change is there. And I was there and I got to be the drummer part of it a couple of weeks ago. But we're able to do that mainly because they have a PTZ camera that's set up in that production room, a little bird dog PTZ camera that's set up right in there that's always there, and it can capture things whenever they need to on that green screen. So that's another kind of trend that I was going to move into next and talk a little bit about, is bringing the minor league flair into production, which I'm seeing a lot more teams do.
And I know that's one of the things you really wanted to get into with this next case study with the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars.
Yeah, so Hagerstown was a new ballpark. So the Hagerstown Suns used to be a minor league affiliate. And then when there was a big shakeup a couple years ago, they lost their affiliate and then created the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars in a brand new, beautiful ballpark right in the middle of downtown Hagerstown, Maryland. So they built that new stadium this year, and they play the Atlantic League, which is an independent league. But exactly what I'm saying here is bringing that minor league flair, because in minor league baseball, right, they only get a certain amount of people that watch these games, and they're required to kind of produce these shows.
Sure.
So what these teams are really utilizing and how they're utilizing these broadcasts, more than just the baseball aspect of it, you get the diehards that will watch their broadcasts, and then you'll get local fans, and then you'll get the recordings that'll go on the local news. But we're really trying to use these broadcasts as a promotional tool to what's going on inside of the ballpark, because that's really what the goal is to get butts in the seats, get people into the ballpark. So you can use this. We're trying to use the broadcast as that tool. So bringing our wireless band cams into our broadcast, not just for the in-house show, right, and showing the fun of what's going on in the ballpark, not just to the video board, but to the broadcast. Those fun little races that are going on the field between innings. Instead of having a commercial, show that, because that gets butts into the seats. People want to see that fun of what's going on there, because when they see that, then they'll come. As they said, when you build it, when you show it, they will come. And that's true. People do come.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, we have one of those Atlantic League affiliates here on Long Island as well.
Yep.
And what I think is amazing about these smaller ballparks, smaller teams, is how they become an extension of the local community. So they're always doing these great community drives and fundraisers and being part of the local area. So now to be able to broadcast that and share that with the community that they're reaching out to becomes what drives the attendance in the stadium, their outreach into the local community outside of the stadium, and even a broadcast that it continues to grow beyond that as well.
Yep, very familiar with the Long Island Ducks. We did their video board a couple years ago. They're one of our Birch clients, so their show was all produced remotely from our studios as well. So they do a great job over there, and they're all about the fun as well.
Absolutely, a ton of fun. I've been to that stadium quite a few times with my kids. And now, Matt, we had another case study to talk about, and this is with the Oakland Ballers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is good. This is a fun one. So as most of us probably know, Oakland has been constantly losing their sports franchises. They lost the Raiders, and they're about to lose the A's. So the Oakland Ballers, they play in the Pioneer League, which is a small independent baseball league, mainly up in the mountain area. So like Montana and Colorado and stuff. And Oakland Ballers, great ownership, kind of really pushed the idea of this underdog story in Oakland. Okay, like, we're losing all our franchises. Let's build up this community and build some franchise for this community. And that's what they did with the Oakland Ballers. It was a really unique project because it came to be very, very quickly. They renovated a baseball, which is basically a rec field, in the middle of Oakland. It was kind of worn down, and they really revitalized the area and revitalized that field. And they built a baseball stadium in 2 months.
Wow.
It was very unique, as you can see from these pictures. It's kind of a temporary, those are temporary bleachers, kind of modular systems. The press box is a shipping container. In there, we put a video board in for them, and you'll see in that picture in the far right, that we built that control room in 24 hours. Literally 24 hours before opening night, opening or first pitch. Those
Wow.
walls were being drywalled. As you can see, they didn't even have lights. They put string lights up there, but it's what we had to do. And honestly, we couldn't have done it without these technologies that we're putting in. With NDI, we were able to build our VLAN on our switch and then plug and play. All our cameras were online, boom, just like that. We were able to get the equipment in the rack, and we were up till middle of the night, way late in the night before. But with NDI, we're able to just bring everything in easily. There wasn't a whole lot of testing, troubleshooting prior, because everything just worked. Everything got where we needed to. So that was definitely a unique project. One we're very proud of, and one that we continue to work with them. They're another one of our Birch clients that we produce the show remotely, because you can tell, going back to my point about space,
Right.
they didn't have a whole lot of space. That's,
Yep.
I believe, a 30-foot wide container. You can see standing way in the back, and this is opening night. We eventually put a partition there for him, but that's their play-by-play guy way in the back corner there in the open room. The other guy standing up is their PA announcer.
Wow.
Then you got the audio, and then the guy who's closest to us is running the video board, and then you got scoring. So there's not a whole lot of room for a full-on broadcast station running a TriCast or a switcher or a replay machine. So these guys the only solution is put a production truck somewhere or do it remotely, which has been huge for the industry, being able to do things remotely because of that space. For example, you can do these pop-up stadiums and still produce a very high-quality show for that.
And I think that's the thing that you really touched on too, is the flexibility that it gives you. You talked about the efficiency of using the same cameras for the broadcast, for the analysis, for player development, for the coaches. Everyone can now tap into the same cameras, whereas traditionally, coach's analysis cam may have popped up in the corner, and then right next to it would be a broadcast camera, and that's where you were talking about 4 cameras in one location. They all had a different purpose. Now, with this NDI technology, anyone can tap into them, pull in the video source they need. It's a much more efficient workflow, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Way more efficient. And the other thing is the stats, right? There's all these stats and all these things that are we're constantly gathering. Baseball is such stats oriented. I talk a lot about baseball because we did a lot of baseball projects. We're working on soccer stadiums now here, moving in hockey arenas as we get into the winter. It's because we have some more recent ones. But it's all about stats. What kind of stats are we putting into the broadcast? How do we gather those stats? Where are they coming from? How are we, like I said, putting those in? But it's more than just stats too. Going back to the trend of hey, what are the fun that we're showing in the ballpark? Because there's a story when you're doing a baseball broadcast or a hockey. There's a story with the sports, but there's also a story about what's going on in the ballpark. There's a story about the team, the franchise itself. So doing lower thirds that are highlighting the mascot on the broadcast, doing promotional things with the graphics that you're doing. The graphics that you're throwing up right there that's another huge trend that we're seeing in these shows is more graphics, more lower thirds, more things to tell the story, more than just baseball, what's going all around it, the community. Look at that picture of in the upper corner of Oakland Ballers. Yep. In my years, I've traveled to many, many different baseball stadiums. That's opening night of the Oakland Ballers, and that was the greatest crowd I've ever seen. They had 4,000 plus people. Awesome. Now the Oakland A's will say that they had more people down the street, but I call baloney on that. I think the Oakland Ballers had more people that night.
Right.
They were losing 9-1 in the 9th inning, and everybody was still there. That's cheering on their teams. Let's go Oakland. What a great crowd that was.
That's awesome. And it really kind of shows you the importance of production and the audience that you're delivering the production to. In a sports broadcast world, you have the in-venue audience, the people that are there at the stadium. You're setting up the digital signage, the scoreboards, and there's a lot of content that's being delivered to those inside the stadium. But that content also has to be delivered to the broadcast for people that are watching at home on their computers or on their TVs. And then you also have the interesting aspect now of social media. How can I deliver this content in short little tidbits to bring the community into the game and into the stadium for the next game that's coming up next week? So these are all unique different workflows that, when planned out correctly, can all complement each other, right?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Because, it goes back to utilizing kind of the same stuff and telling the same story with the little uniqueness across each platform, whether it's in-house, whether it's broadcast, whether it's social media. But really, I see kind of like the future is, we talk about this a lot, is like, how you interact, how does the viewer interact with the show more than, there's very interactive features that are being done in-house, whether someone goes into a contest, like a racing contest, or watching trivia and everybody's cheering and watching the cap shuffles. Well, how do we make it interactive for viewers who are home in the broadcast so they get that feel of what's in the ballpark and eventually have their butt in that seat?
Absolutely. And that's a great thing that Visual is doing very well. Visual, with the Verge production side of it, a great company to work with for your next sports production. Matt, you guys are based out of Wisconsin, but as we can tell from the case studies you talked about, you work all over the U.S., right?
Yeah, we're all over the U.S. I mean, you got a stadium, we'll be there. We can have somebody there quickly to go do an analysis and kind of discuss your ballpark and how you want to move into the future of technology. So we love to go into an old room, make it new, tear it apart, clean it up. That's what we love to get down and dirty and figure out how to give you the best production. And the other thing we do is we love to think about it from an operator's perspective, because a lot of us have worked in the industry and came from working in the industry. So we know what it's like to be in an operator standpoint. So although we're AV integrators and we love technology, we're also understand the operator side. So happy to help in any way we can. We help teams is our motto.
That's awesome. And I wanted to avoid the cliche as much as I could, but since you opened it up before, if you build it, they will come. So reach out to Visual. Visual can help you out with all your sports production projects. If you'd like to learn more, you can visit them on their website at visual.us. Give them a call at 866-847-8228. Matt, thank you for joining us once again and for sharing some of the sports production stuff that you guys are working on.
Thanks, Jim. We'll see you next year.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
It's always great to hear about, success stories and seeing, again, like Gary was saying earlier today, getting the perspective from both the manufacturer who are designing and making the products, but then also being able to hear the perspective from somebody who is an actual system integrator that is using this equipment and installing it in fields and different sports venues all across the country. So it's definitely great to hear from Matt Baker's perspective. Our last venue integrator that we're going to be hosting is Dan Mial from Bird Dog. He's going to talk about their brand new camera systems, their brand new PTC cameras, Bird Dog 2.0, as we like to call it. So after this, we will be back for a Q&A session with all three of our hosts, and then we're going to announce our prizes. So we'll see you in about a half an hour.
Welcome to SportStream. We're giving you 3 days of streaming all about sports, how to produce live sports, how to stream live sports. We're bringing you case studies. We're bringing you vendor spotlights, product roadmaps. And today we have a vendor spotlight on our good friends from Down Under, Bird Dog. Dan, welcome aboard. How you doing?
Gary, thanks very much. I'm doing great. It's the other side of the day, but I'm so glad to be here. I've got my coffee, so hopefully I'm going to make some sense for you all.
Cool. Well, we're really excited because, as people can see right here, and I'm going to hold it like this if I could, because it's pretty cool. This is a new camera from Bird Dog. This is the X1. And one of the things I really like about this camera is a little antenna on the back. This can work for Wi-Fi. When you're in a sporting event, sporting situation where maybe the room doesn't have the Ethernet where you want it, but it's got Wi-Fi coverage, which we're seeing in a lot of like basketball gymnasiums and, high schools and small colleges. you can set one of these up and get on the Wi-Fi network and actually bring it in via NDI. So cool. So talk to us a little bit about the new range of cameras, starting with the X1, and walk us through the Ultra, X5, and the Mackie. But think sports when you describe them, why they would be good for sports.
Thanks very much, Gary. So I think from our perspective here at Bird Dog, we make our own cameras, we make our own production equipment, and it's really with the use case in mind. So sports is a perfect example of that, where our cameras don't necessarily look exactly the same as other ones because we have something in mind that we think people will be able to use these things for. In this new range that you've just spoken about, we've got a couple of cameras, and I'll actually give you a sneak peek about a brand new one as well, which includes Wi-Fi. Now, Wi-Fi is pretty commonplace for everything except for video production. And right now, it's kind of been seen as a bit of a taboo. Can you use Wi-Fi for live production? And we're here at Bird Dog saying, yes, you can, with new generation products, with new generation technologies, like we put in these brand new ranges of products. Wi-Fi is one of the options you can do to make sure you can get the best shot possible. I think one of the cool things with sport is there's always something different you want to cover. You want to get a better angle. You want to get closer to the action. And when you're doing that in stadiums or in areas that haven't necessarily been purpose-built for this, having the flexibility of whatever type of connection or even no connection with Wi-Fi allows you to get the best shot and make that program look as good as possible. In terms of the range of products, we're all about making video production look like television, but for whatever budget you like. Our cameras start at a pretty reasonable price. They kind of enter right at that starting point for any robotic camera with the X1 Ultra, which is what Gary's just been showing you there. Then we move up the range. We've got cameras that support UHD or 4K, high frame rate as well. So if you're wanting to do slow motion to get that awesome shot that's just happened and do a replay. And I teased a little bit earlier, we've got this brand new camera. This is being announced this week. So you saw it here first. This one here is called the X4 Ultra. Nice. And this thing takes video from a great level to the next level. It's got a larger video sensor, so it's got better image quality. It's got full 4K 60, so high frame rate and really sharp pictures. And you'll see it's got these awesome new antennas on the back. It's got a double powered Wi-Fi 6 configuration, which means that effectively it's got a whole lot more range. So when you're putting it inside a stadium or using it out in the field, it's going to work that much more reliably.
So I want to so everyone knows this. The key thing is when you see the word Ultra in a Bird Dog PTZ camera, that means it's 4K UHD, correct, Dan?
You got it right. We're pretty simple folks down here. We wanted to make it easy to understand. Product names, every brand's got a different one. There's numbers and letters and all the rest. If it's got Ultra, it's UHD.
And my big question is, does it also mean that they're all P60 also?
That's actually slightly different. No. So basically, if it's an Ultra, it's UHD. The only camera we've got that's UHD that's not high frame rate is that X1 Ultra, which is the one we just spoke about. That's our entry level. Perfect for doing commentary coverage and things like that, where you've got you want beautiful pictures, but you don't necessarily need that high frame rate action. It can save you a bit of money with still having excellent quality pictures. If you want to have that high frame rate, silky smooth slow motion, that's when you move up to things like our X4 and X5 Ultras, which will give you that high frame rate and obviously we capture all that action.
Let's talk about that a little, because I think that's very interesting. You talked about how there's the sporting event itself. And for the sporting event, the action on the field, we want 4K, we want P60, we want UHD because we want to see the blades of grass. We want to see the sweat on the player. One of my examples that I like to use is that before COVID, we were all talking about 4K UHD. COVID hit, and all we wanted to do was get HD productions that worked however we could.
Right? Yep.
So it all kind of fell apart. But and I was wondering, when is UHD going to come back? And then this past winter, or early winter, pro football, US football, I'm flipping on the playoff game and it says, do you want to watch the game in 4K? So I say, okay, I flip it over. And for the first time, I could tell immediately it was 4K UHD. You can see the blades of grass, pop. You can see the cuts on guys' arms. You saw a different level of stuff. And one of the things I think is so important to talk to people about is that HD looks good. 4K is a sharper image. But HD, UHD to most people will look better than 4K. And 4K UHD is really where we can take everything to 11. That 4K, P60, UHD, that's really the right resolution for sports.
Totally. I think with sports, it is the perfect use case for both high resolution and high frame rates. And yeah, it is. We were talking about it just before we got onto this call, Gary. I think it's about a familiarity thing as well. If you're trying to make a video production for your sports, it needs to look and feel like a sports broadcast. And as people are getting more and more used to having, seeing the high quality, seeing those blades of grass, seeing the super slow-mo action, and seeing the sweat on the players and whatever else is in the detail of the shot. And that's what UHD at 60 frames is going to give you. So certainly doing sports coverage, that's one of the key things you want to look at.
But one of the things you talked about, and you guys were incredibly successful for it, you actually had cameras being used by a certain basketball league that I don't know if we're allowed to talk about, where that camera was being used basically to show the coach or to show the referee, explaining what his call was. And I think, that's where those X1 and the X1 Ultra still come into a sporting type event, because if you want to put that camera, let's say, on the announcers at a wrestling event, or where you want to have it be where it's just looking at the bench, or maybe it's looking at the penalty box in hockey or something like that, that's a good way where you don't need that same kind of resolution and frame rate. What you just need is a good down and dirty camera that's going to get the person where they are. And you really need a PTZ camera, because you can't get a cameraman between the coach and the basketball court. That's crazy. But you certainly, the table where the timekeeper is, especially if it's high school or, a small college, where you can put a camera on there and you can have it face the action when you want to. It can face the coach, it can face the referee when he's explaining a call. And I think that's a really cool workflow. So let's get the Ultra, the X5, the X4, the Mackie on the field or on the court.
Yep.
And let's get a X1 or an X1 Ultra on the interview box, the commentary, the talking head part of the sports production.
Totally. And I think, the great thing about, if you're looking at cameras in 2024, is we've got these little X1s, the one that you held up. It's a tiny little camera, but it is still UHD. It's still 4K.
Yeah.
And the great thing with that is you can put it in front of, like you were saying, the commentator, the announcer. And like I mentioned earlier, making a sports broadcast, no matter how, what league you're in, is making something that feels familiar. And you want to have a product that people can watch and want to actually root for the team. They want to listen to what the commentators and announcers have got to say. So having these little cameras around, giving you the shots where people feel, effectively it's like they're at the stadium, or it's better than at the stadium. By having these little cameras with these great shots. And the X1's perfect for getting those small shots where you can frame it up and not be intrusive to the game.
And Dan, the other thing you've done is you've gone to NDI-X3, which I think is real interesting, because in the beginning, HX had some latencies, which made it very difficult for sports. With HX3, they've really resolved that issue, and because it's HX, it's much lighter weight on the network, so it's really a great solution. So, and it also, I guess, that the Wi-Fi probably wouldn't be possible without the HX3, huh?
Yeah, totally. So we've reinvented our entire product line. We like to effectively say we're Bird Dog 2.0 with our products. We've had a lot of learnings along the way. You might have heard of NDI before. It seems to have taken off a little. With us, we were right at the very start, and it's a way of getting audio and video over a network very easily. And with NDI, it works great over regular computer networks if you've got a decent set of infrastructure. NDI-HX came along, and you'll see that around in a bunch of cameras. We've avoided it fairly much until now because we want to live up to these production standards. So Bird Dog cameras have always been the highest quality and the lowest latencies. They're the fastest possible, which is perfect for sports because you can't have action that's a second behind the action. It confuses the hell out of people. So what we do with our cameras is make sure that they're actually giving you live pictures. So fast forward to 2024, these new cameras that we've got, we've taken NDI-HX, and with HX3, which is the latest format from NDI, it's given us the tool set to apply kind of our Bird Dog flavor to that, to make sure that we have that performance that we'd expect from any Bird Dog product in terms of the speed and the quality. Now, the benefit of that is that now we're running with NDI-HX, we're more network friendly for maybe less deliberate installations. And that's where things like Wi-Fi now really work well. We can run that with with a bunch of our cameras. You can run directly over Wi-Fi. But even apart from that, running on other networks, it doesn't fill up the network as quickly. So having a bunch of cameras, you don't have to be quite so, not necessarily concerned, you don't have to be quite so deliberate in planning your network when you're running with NDI-HX3. But with Bird Dog, we're all about making sure that above and beyond that HX3 certification. We're faster than that. We're as fast as live action needs to be. But we're also making sure the picture quality doesn't suffer as well. We're making sure that what you're getting is broadcastable quality pictures.
Now, Dan, a couple of times you dropped the phrase Bird Dog 2.0. So I want to briefly expand on that a little bit. And that is in the past, you guys were designing a chip that was dropped into someone else's camera. This new camera line, you've designed every part of it, not just the NDI, but the actual mechanics, the optics, the form factor, the whole thing. And I think it's really giving you a much higher level quality control, and also you'd be able to design it for what you want it to work for, as opposed to what someone else's might have worked for. And that's why I think these are going to be so good for sports.
Yeah, totally. I think if you take a look around, there's a lot of cameras out there that look remarkably similar to each other, and that's it's the way a lot of industries work, where you have a reference design and then people put their logos on there and mess around with it from there. We've always been about going a little deeper than that. We actually make our own hardware and our own chips that process this video. It's something we've done right from the start. But we took this opportunity, we got a little bored over the winter really, and decided that we'd make a whole new range of cameras. And with that, we've taken the opportunity to go literally from the ground up with these cameras. So we've been extremely deliberate in the design of the products, in terms of the shape, the way they look and feel, so they fit in with the kind of places they're going to be used, but also making sure that the performance and the reliability moves up a notch as well. There's a lot of learnings you get when you make cameras, and we've been doing it now for a number of years. So this Bird Dog 2.0 really personifies that, where we've got these cameras that not only have really striking and new features that people haven't necessarily seen in a camera before, but they're designed to be reliable, easy to use, but also easy to deploy. They're very easy to set up. They're nice and small, they're unobtrusive, but they've got some great features that help you with your live production as well. So Bird Dog 2.0 is all about making sure that we're moving things forward for people. We're not just trying to make another same product. We're trying to make a way that video production and sports production can be more convenient, can be better. You can cover more games, you can cover more people. And that's what our products do now with the next generation.
Cool. Now, one of the things that we want to do is we want to pivot a little bit to a new part of the product line. It's not a new product, it's an old product, and it's the Bird Dog Play. But I think it's so cool because it's a affordable decoder. It means I can put television monitors in my stadium, gymnasium, locker room, coach's room, wherever I want it, because of NDI. So I don't want to steal the whole story. Explain how this works into sports and why it's so cool.
So Play is actually one of my favorite products. It is the smallest and the most easy kind of to understand product we have effectively up until now. Basically, it's like an Apple TV or a video set-top box. You plug it into your TV and it can receive or catch any of your video signals. That could be straight from a camera, it could be a commentary camera, or it could be a cut from your production system, from your switcher, so you can actually distribute that video around the building. They come in at an incredibly low price and they're really easy to manage. But what we've actually done with the Play, in its isolation, they've been by far and away the largest volume product we've ever sold. They just fit in so many places to put video on screens. But we're now looking at how you can use, and especially in sport, I think this is really interesting, how you can use these little boxes, because they've got a great amount of processing power in them, to enhance your video production. If you're doing a remote production, so let's say you've got an away game, but you still want to do some coverage. Right now, that's a bit of a head scratcher. You've heard of all these acronyms like SRT, and you've got cloud video production and REMI and all sorts of things like that. But the reality is that you go to do a remote production, you've still got to take a bunch of gear. You've got to take powerful computers with graphics cards and all sorts of other stuff. What we've built into Play now is it's now cloud aware. So it'll catch all the video from your cameras at your local field or your remote field, and it can wrap them up and send them back to base. So if you've got a team of people that works every weekend or helps you out every weekend to do your sports production, they can do that remotely. And you don't need to go out there with a truckload of gear or even a caseload of gear. You take that little Bird Dog Play and your cameras, and that basically becomes your remote gateway. It makes it so much more easy to manage, but also so much more cost effective to do these remote productions. So Play is a bit of a Swiss Army knife these days. You can use it in every screen around your building just to display the video that you've got in venue. It could be, like you say, anyone from coaches through in the locker room, wherever you like. But you can also use it almost for the exact opposite reason, where you're taking everything that you've got in a remote location, and it sucks it all up and sends it over the internet for you to produce that somewhere else as well. And that's all thanks to our BirdDog ecosystem, which includes not only the cameras, but also our cloud platform as well.
Now, of course, because we're live, I took things out of order. We already talked about HX3, but why don't we just bring this slide up full screen for a sec so people can see what I should have been on when we were talking about HX3, and maybe it'll remind you. But HX3 to me is the really best version of NDI there's ever been. You get the great low latency with the low overhead on the whole network, and I love the fact that you guys have kind of standardized on HX3 now. You know, at the time, full NDI, you were the guys who did it, and I think there was a good reason. But right now, I think HX3, because of how good it is, and because you guys are so good at leveraging NDI better than other people do, you figured out that anything that really needed to be done, you guys can do with HX3 as good or better.
Yeah, so I think for me, I'm actually on a bit more of a crusade than that. I think NDI is the party piece here. Yeah, the suffix is important. We need to make sure, with our cameras, we're HX3, and HX3 is really important to indicate that it's got the latency and the speed to where you can use it in live. And of course, we go over and beyond that in terms of the performance. But I'm really all about making it even easier. For people that don't want to get down and dirty and understand the differences between full NDI and HX, moving forward, I think that should be less and less of an issue for a video production. Right now, or up until now, it's felt like there's almost been two camps. You're either a full NDI camp or you're an HX camp. With HX3 and the ability that we have with a lot of our products now, that little converter box I mentioned earlier, the Play, it happily plays with both full NDI as well as HX3. And that should be the way the world works moving forward. Is we don't want it to be a tech fest to set up NDI. We want it to just work. And with HX3, you're getting the performance you expect, and you're getting the quality you expect. And with our products, it really shouldn't matter as you move forward, whether it's full or HX in terms of that overall setting up. But yeah, as you said, for us, we only just moved into HX3 because we're now confident we can deliver what you need and what we'd expect from a camera. It can be live and it can be high quality.
So BirdDog since the beginning has been the NDI guys. Your NDI full, your NDI HX3, it doesn't matter. You guys have been at it the longest of any camera company. You do a great job with it, and I love these new cameras. I think you've really done a new job, and I like the form factor. Just kudos to you and your engineering team. I really think you've knocked that out of the park.
Thank you very much, mate. It's been a whole lot of fun. What we love doing is making things that push things a little bit harder. We've always been kind of known for pushing the boundaries about what can be done. That's where we started from, and I think these new generation of cameras really show that that's going forward as well. One of the things that I did have in one of my slides here, and I don't know whether we skipped over it, is we're really focused moving forward on quality. And we mean that as far as the quality of the products and your experience with them, making them as easy as possible to use and just doing what you'd expect. Innovation is one of these things, coming up with great new ideas and talking about it, but delivering it. And that's what we're really living these days is we announce a product, we've now got a full range of products. We didn't do the typical thing of making a whole big press release and off we go. We actually announced them and started shipping them. They're real, and we've been working really hard to make sure that what we're delivering delivers for anyone that wants to use the products as well.
And you guys are delivering. And let's talk about still future technology, and that is you guys are also integrating AI into everything. So let's talk about that a little bit and how it can make your sports production even better.
Totally. I mean, you can't go anywhere without reading about AI, and AI is going to change the world. And frankly, it will change the world in so many different ways. And I think we're only just scratching the surface of it. I think if we were to release a range of cameras in 2024 that didn't have some kind of AI capabilities, it'd be a head scratcher. But for us, we're all about how we can push AI moving forward. So right now, we've got some great features where we've got auto tracking within our cameras. It'll pick a person, or you can pick a person, and then the camera has an affinity with them. It falls in love with that person and keeps following them around. It's great for if you've got a presenter or someone that likes to wander around on a stage. It'll follow that particular person. And it's a really great tool, almost like an autopilot for a camera. But much like what we've done in the past, we've been, I think, pretty famous for adding more and more features to our products as they move through their life cycle. So if you bought a camera from BirdDog 5 years ago, that same camera operates, looks and feels completely different now. And we see the same thing moving forward with AI. We're not here about just putting a little sprinkle of AI in there. We've got upgradable and expandable AI built into all of our cameras. And we see there's a whole lot of cool stuff to watch this space with. Joining those cameras to be able to talk together, adding more and more features that enable productions to go. You said to 11, we want to go past that. We want to make these productions to be even higher quality. And as the cameras understand what's going on more around them, they're able to do more and more of that for you to help some of that heavy lifting to get higher quality productions. So in the video world, AI is all about helping you get a better quality production. And with all of our new cameras, it's built in. It allows you to make sure people are centered, that you've got great image quality, that the camera is actually behaving as you'd expect, so you can get on with telling the story of the show or of the game.
When it comes to sports, there's network level money, NFL level money, NBC level money, or TBS. The stations that do sports for a living. But SportStream is about doing sports for the local team, your local youth leagues, your local high school, community colleges, small schools, or even semi-pro leagues and things like that. And I think that's where I think some of that AI can really come in handy too, because it can make actually operating and using the gear easier and make it able to be produced with less people and less effort and more intuitive type stuff. So what kind of AI features are you looking at that'll make sports production easier besides tracking?
Yes, I think you're right. And in terms of a sports production, you want to make it, like I mentioned right at the start, as familiar as possible. There is a formula to making an engaging sports production. So having, whether that is for your local team or whether it is for the tier ones, you want it to look and feel like that. So people want to be engaged. They want to watch the game. Where AI really helps is helping you get those shots so they're lined up. So help you get the camera to move into the location as we move forward, helping you make sure all those cameras look the same. You want to make sure, it doesn't matter whether you're looking at the camera from one end of the field or the other, the grass needs to be the same green. Helping out with those kind of features is where AI really can help out in a production. In a broadcast level production or in a tier one, you've got a team of people. There's a guy that looks after the colors for the grass, and there's someone that looks after controlling a camera, not 4 cameras. So when we're working in a production where you don't have that amount of people, having AI as your sidekick actually really helps make that look and feel much more at the same level. And for me, it's all about the more you can make it look and feel familiar and like a live production that you've seen on TV, the more people are going to watch it, the more people are going to tune in every week to watch a game.
Absolutely. I think everyone thinks of you guys as hardware guys, but in that whole look and feel thing, you guys are pretty good software guys too. And you developed a suite of software tools. And what I really like is you really pay attention to the GUI. They all, if you learn one, you can operate them all. They all feel and act the same. And kudos on that. I know that's not something that was necessarily easy. It was thoughtful and purposeful to get there. And kudos on that. But talk about the Bird UI a little bit.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot of cameras that get really nerdy really quickly, and they can be from the biggest companies out there. If you don't have a manual and sit there for 3 days reading it, you're not going to get the best out of it. And my background and the company's background is all about using these things and making them as purposefully easy to operate. So one of the big things, as you picked up, Gary, is that our cameras and our products, whether it's software, cameras, converters, even our cloud system, all looks and feels the same. Once you learn how to use a Bird Dog product, you know how to use them all. And we think that's really important because, especially in a smaller production where you've got less people, if you know how to work a camera, but then for some reason someone asks you to help out on some other part of the production, you innately know how to use it. And that's really important for everything that we have in terms of the control and everything. But not only about having the same language across all the products, it's got to be easy and look nice as well. Just because we've got a camera doesn't mean it needs to be nerdy. We want it to look great. We want you to want to use it. So the interfaces are they're clean, they're easy to understand. The controls in there show you what is actually happening in the camera. So you get a really great look and feel of what's going on. We want them to be as predictable as possible so you can actually get down and use these things as quickly as possible. So it's very deliberate. And we're all about making a solution. And that's one of the things that we think is different about Bird Dog is we don't just make cameras, as you mentioned. We don't just make converters. We don't just make software. We actually make a solution, and that makes it a whole lot easier for you to use because if you buy one of our cameras or if you deploy one of our Play decoders or if you use our cloud system, everything is designed and hooks in and works together. You're not the one that's kind of trailblazing to set it up. And so for us, that's really important, making sure everything is approachable, easy to use, looks nice, but actually works really great together.
And then let's talk about your iOS app. Now, I know it'll work on an iPhone or an iPad. Now, for me to run PTZ cameras with these eyes at this age on an iPhone, not so easy. But on the tablet, I love that because you can hand a tablet to anyone. So this is really great if you've got, an educational thing. You can hand one of the students a tablet, and they can get to all the controls of every camera. So talk about that a little bit, because I think it's just well done.
Yeah, so I've got it on my phone. My tablet's somewhere else, but it's just loading up now. The app that we've got is actually super cool. I'm just going to connect to my camera so you can see that it's there. It should pop up in just a moment. There we are. So there's me. You can control everything in the camera from your phone over Wi-Fi. So if you wanted to just readjust the framing, you can just go, oh, hang on, the guy's shifted to the left. Someone can just get on their phone or their iPad and just adjust that framing. Being an iOS or a touchscreen device, you can actually just drag around, and you can move the camera just by dragging your finger around. You can adjust the zoom, you can adjust the focus, but importantly, you can also adjust everything else. So all the colors and all the other control of the camera. But again, it's in a really approachable, great to use UI. We've actually got a great new update that's coming out probably about the time we get to IBC, which is this week. A show over in Amsterdam, which gives us some new features like some overlays, so you can make sure that you've got the shot centered and some greater control as well. But this iOS app, especially as you mentioned in an iPad, is great because you can have someone just sitting off to the side that can control those cameras, but also you can have someone that can jump in and help you out in case of something happening, like someone moving or the wind moves something around and you need to just put that out of shot. You don't have to open up some specific tool that's only available on one computer.
So one of the things I like to talk about is we call this show SportStream, but when you think about sports, especially with high school or college sports, you have three elements to sports. Number one is you're producing the sports show for people to watch and stream it. Number two is that same technology can be used for your coaches to let them coach and, review with players, review games, review strategies, test plays, whatever, during practices or during games. And the third thing is it can allow the students to produce the show. And that's what's so cool about this iPad app. Any student who gets in front of their iPad, can now be, you're the PTZ guy today for today's show. So it's fun. It's kind of sticky because it's on a cool technology and a GUI. And it's, I'm old school. I like buttons and joysticks. But kids today, they'd much rather touch a screen. So just a good job. Very cool on that. And let's talk about, what's going on at the next level.
Yeah, cool. So I think you've totally got that right in terms of there's a whole bunch of disciplines that really benefit from doing sports production, and performance management is one of those things that shouldn't be lost, I think, on when you're doing your sports broadcasting. Is you want to save all of those images so that you can look at them later and see how the plays worked, or pull them apart from a coach level. In terms of what's next, again, as I mentioned, we've got a whole new generation of products. It's pretty unusual for a company in 1 year to just replace everything with a brand new set of products with new technology, guys, and really give you a whole new view into the future. But that's what we've done. So 2024 is in every respect Bird Dog 2.0, and with the products, the new stuff we've got here, smooth movements on air. I think this is an important one. Differentiating between a local production and a broadcast production is all about the production quality. So we spent a lot of time in these next generation products making sure that our robotic control, having a PTZ camera move around looking like it's a robot, makes it look obvious that it's not made at the same level as a sports broadcast that you might see on ESPN. Having much higher quality motors, having better control over how those movements accelerate and smooth down. It's all actually quite technical underneath it, but it makes it look a whole lot more natural. So one of the big things we've been focusing on is around the movement of these robotic cameras, the PTZ cameras. And we think that's an area where a lot of improvement could have been done, and that's what we've done. In terms of image quality, again, benefit of every 12 months or 18 months, things get better. And so having the latest quality sensors, the image quality that we're getting out of it, the processing, we all know that you get a new iPhone, the pictures look better on the cameras. It changes every year. There's a lot of stuff that accelerates. And in our product line, all of our new cameras have got the latest high quality sensors. So you're going to get the best detail in terms of the shadows and the highlights and the grass details and all those things that make that image look super sharp and super great. Of course, we mentioned about Wi-Fi as well. That's actually something that's we're really quite we're fixed on, and we think there's a future here with Wi-Fi production. Are you going to have every camera running over Wi-Fi? Probably not. But it's going to get you those shots that were going to be hard to do otherwise. If you've got a production where you want to get a camera down the other end of the goal line and for some reason there's no network connection, just put it over there. With our latest camera, the X4, it's got a battery built in as well. So you literally just turn it on, put it on a tripod and connect to it. So this kind of next level thinking is all about how you can use these things, how to make it look next level, how to make the movements feel next level. And so from our point of view, we're all about just taking things up a notch.
I think you did reach the next level. You're delivering the critical things that I think we need for sports, which is 4K, P60, UHD. You've got smoother movements, smoother motions on your the cameras. You've done a great job on just a whole new product line that's designed and built by Bird Dog from the ground up and all that good stuff. And I just got to say, kudos. I don't think this is Bird Dog 2.0 is here. It's not forward thinking. You're here. Your cameras are great for sports. NDI HX3, I think you pushed the technology. If we had more time, we could go into some of your cloud stuff, but I think we'll save that for a whole nother show for the Bird Dog Cloud. And I just want to tell you, Dan was coming in via Teams on the internet. He's down in Australia.
Thanks very much, Gary. The trials and tribulations of living on the other side of the planet, that little bit of wet string that joins us together sometimes gets a bit funky. But thanks very much. From my point of view, I think sports broadcasting is one of the most exciting areas where we can all make a big difference. The acceleration or the rate at which we're able to bring the quality of that production up is really, it's something to be seen recently. And I think, from us here at Bird Dog, we think that's one of the bigger areas that we're focusing on and the bigger areas where people can get the benefits. So with our latest products, I've mentioned a lot about our cameras, but also just in general about the solutions that we have. If you're wanting to make people want to watch your production, it's all about that production value and the picture quality. So thanks very much for listening to me, Gary, all the team. Thank you so much for the opportunity here. It's been an awesome day, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you. SportStream, September 10th through 12th. We're number one. High five.
Well, it's been 3 days, almost 10 hours worth of content, over 15 different segments produced in that time. All of those segments are going to be available to everyone who has registered at SportStream.us. It will be available on demand as well. So if you missed any of the segments over the last 3 days, please don't worry. We'll give you an opportunity to do that. I invited Gary, James, and myself, Jim, back here on the set to help answer any questions that have come up along the way. I want to start with a few questions that came up earlier in the week, and then we'll give our audience today an opportunity to ask any questions as well. So if you do have questions available, we have Adam at the production system monitoring those. He can send them in as they come in. But let's start with an interesting question that came while I was live on the first day talking about getting started in sports production. A great question was, how is live sports production and most of the content that we talked about this week different and the same as esports production? I talked a lot about it. Gary, I'd like you to weigh in on it.
The biggest thing about it is esports, the athletes are on a single screen, which is whoever people are playing with, be it Call of Duty or the Justice League of America, whatever it is. So from a camera production point of view, it's actually tremendously easier. I need a still camera or one PTZ camera that's focused on the different players who are sitting still and doing their thing. I need a camera that's got the output where everyone's looking at the same camera and it should be on a feed that's a bigger feed. Now, what's interesting is some people will try to get like the behind the player thing. So you see the player looking at his screen while he's doing stuff. Right. That, when you want to do that, is very cool, but it adds a whole different level of complexity because you can't have it distracting. You got to make sure your angles and everything's working when you're seeing the same stuff. So I've seen sometimes they'll put like if it's 4 players, a quad split, and you'll see all 4 facing the monitor they're facing with what they're doing with their hands and stuff, versus trying to have the big screen and then a player on an inside in the look. The other thing is the players talk a lot with each other, so the audio is very different. Whereas in a live sport, usually there's an announcer or someone telling you where the game is. Really, in the esports, the announcer's job really is after the session's done. The players fill enough color. Now, high school, be careful because sometimes the stuff that these players say isn't necessarily good for all ages and stuff like that. And I know there's warnings on that. You have to have someone typically on a live stream on a hot button because people do tend to say something wrong. But it's a very cool thing and it's a lot of fun. But the thing that is the same is the action time has still got to be there. You got to be able to switch cameras and follow the action and hit buttons, and it's a lot of muscle memory. You know, instant replay doesn't really happen like in a sporting event, but the games themselves allow you to do replays and relooks after the session is over. So it's cool. It's a lot of fun. It's very different. What I also find about it that's really tough is that's when the esports are all playing in the same room.
Right.
Now let's say I got a team of 4 people, and I'm in New York, and I'm playing a team of 4 people in Minnesota against another team that's in Florida. Now it gets a lot more complex. When you get into something like that, that's a whole nother story. That's for a whole nother show. And if we really want to learn about that, there's a guy over at New Tech, Chris, who really is in on this stuff. And they've got people in different e-game studios with TriCasters in each one, creating just what I described. But I'm not going to, that's kind of, I'm not going to say it's above my pay grade, but I'm not comfortable walking people through how you do that. It's a little bit more complex with mix minus and a whole lot of audio video syncing tricks.
I would definitely agree with that. I would think that also with, we talked a lot about NDI the past couple of days. And one great thing about NDI is you can get NDI tools, and the easiest way to get the screen capture from your players on all of their individual computers is just a free tool. It's called NDI Screen Capture. That's actually how we're getting our PowerPoint presentation and our videos to show up in this box here. And you can just do that with all 8 of your computers to get them the screens as sources on your network. And that's where the M4250s would come back into play too.
Great first question.
And the other thing I'll add too is I think from a sports production point of view, everyone is trying to emulate a style that was created and popularized by ESPN, by Monday Night Football, by Fox Sports. There has not been that universally accepted broadcast of the esports arena just yet.
Right.
So everyone is still trying to figure that out. So it's one of those things that is trying to like be careful what you wish for. If you're one of those creative dudes that getting into this space, this could be a great opportunity to kind of do it the way you want to do it, right?
And I'll add one more thing. Esports, the weather is always nice. When you're doing real sports and you're out there, sometimes you get rain, sometimes you get wind, sometimes you get lightning, sometimes you get the sun goes down, the sun goes behind a cloud. There's things that happen with a sport that's outdoors producing it that you can control those elements completely in an esports environment.
Absolutely. Another question that came in when we had David join us talking about the Canon PTZ cameras. One of the things that is often overlooked when we talk about the different PTZ cameras, the camera optics, we always talk about the robotic control. But his question very specifically was, what controller do we recommend with the Canon CRN 300 was the example he used.
So when we were live with that, I had mentioned that, Canon has 2 controllers. They have the RC IP100 and they have the RC IP1000. In the video that David was using to do the live color matching demo, he was demoing using the RC IP1000, which is really a coloring powerhouse of a controller, whereas the RC IP100 can also do coloring, but it's a much simpler controller.
It's really a PTZ controller.
Right. It's mostly for your pan, tilt, and zoom. So if you're only going to be using 2 to 3 cameras and you just need to do your camera movements, the RC IP100 is totally fine for the CRN 300. I would say once you get over 3, 4, 5 cameras, that's when you want to go to the RC IP1000 so you can get the multi-viewer preview screens on the controller. And then also it has an HDMI output so you can put that preview screen on a bigger monitor, whereas the RC IP100 can't do that. The other follow-up question was somebody was asking if you can save the color settings from one camera and copy and paste them to another camera. And David didn't say that in the video, but yes, with the RC IP1000, you can do that. You can save presets, not only save presets, but you can copy and paste them to multiple cameras on your network right away, from also PTZ cameras to their XF605 with the XC protocol. And then also you can save those presets. So if you know that you're going to be using those cameras in a specific venue, but it's not a permanent thing and you want to save those color settings for that venue, you can, and then next time you go to that venue, just recall those color settings and then copy and paste them onto all of your cameras in your network. So absolutely something that you can do with the RC IP1000.
Now, James, that was a very recent update to that controller,
Yes.
right?
This just happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. We were researching it when the question came in. And that's why if you do have questions, send them into the team at sales@videoguys.com. We don't profess that we know the answer to everything, but we know enough people in the industry, as you can see from the roster that we had hosted here this week. We know who to reach out to. We know how to get you the answers. One of the reasons that there was so much confusion about whether the IP1000 could do that is because it was a brand new feature released in the firmware just a few weeks ago.
Yep, brand new.
Yeah, that's one of the things you're going to see with a lot of the products that we talk about now, especially that we're in an IP world, and that is the products released with a list of features. Hopefully all those features are there at release. Sometimes a couple are missing. And they add the ones that are missing, but then sometimes they unleash a whole other set of features that makes you say, wow, this product's even better than what I bought. And that's very interesting and very cool in our industry right now. Stuff is becoming better, not obsolete.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, and then the other popular question that usually comes up anytime we host a show like this is always related to specific workflows. Gary, I know you're a big baseball fan. You can talk a lot about camera placement and different production considerations in the world of baseball, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then there's other sports, like, and I love it when we're always throwing like other sports out there. We had a customer tune in and ask about track and field. Okay, so now track and field, a whole other production challenge, but very similar to horse racing, very similar to automotive racing. You basically put an oval out there and you're going to have different
For the track part.
Right.
The field part, not always the same.
Exactly. And I know my son did track and field. And sometimes they would do the field events before the track, and sometimes they would run them concurrent.
Right.
It all depended on the venue, the size of the venue, how many people were there, and quite honestly, how much sunset was left in the evening before we had to get the kids off the field. So those are all considerations that you're going to have to bring in. How many cameras are you going to do? When you start this conversation, one of the most important questions to ask, and it really is a tough question, is what is the budget? I know it's difficult because everyone wants to hear how much money do I need? But really, when you start to really investigate what the budget is, it tells you, are you shopping for a Honda or are you shopping for a Mercedes? Right?
Yeah, you know, that's a great part. Let's just give the example of a track. You could set up 4 PTZ cameras around a track and have kids either running to and then past or running to and then handing off to the next camera.
Right.
But you really do need 4. So if you want to cover that whole track for the whole race because you've got some distance running and other things like that, you may have to compromise and get 4 less expensive cameras rather than 2 really great ones. So that's a really great point. And of course, you know, with the field stuff, that tends to be not as PTZ camera friendly. I'm going to say, you probably want a handheld person down where those events are, because some of those events have safety issues where you just can't be standing in certain spots.
Is that
hey, there's a javelin.
And, you know, and that's the thing too. In the field events, you can have something that takes up a very small part of the field, or then you can take the shot put throw or the javelin throw. It's going to be a much different, very significant area that you need to cover throughout those events. So it's really making sure that you're going to be able to bring the audience the footage that they need to see. And it might be even a 2-camera shoot, one at the start, one at the end.
And I'm going to add, for my oval, I probably want a 5th camera because I probably want a camera straight across the finish line, hoping for that photo finish that I can put in the slow motion to really show what a great job I did, you know, with the camera stuff. So track and field, great sports, great stuff like that. You really got to think about where your layout is on that.
And one of the things that we talk about the broadcast standards, if you look at the way the Olympics were broadcasting, they literally had hundreds of cameras set up throughout these venues.
Yep.
But when you're watching it on TV, you're not seeing hundreds of cameras at a time. Take a look at the way they're covering the events and try to emulate what you're seeing, and how can you do that and identify those different challenges along the way.
Absolutely. And if you're doing it in a school, like a high school setting, it's a great homework assignment to give the kids that say, go watch these the films of the Olympics or whatever it was, then come back and try to figure out where the camera placement was and where we were. Because remember, like football games, my favorite example, they use a ton of cameras at the NFL for a football game. but it's really 5 or 6 that are used for 80-90% of the production. And they go to the other ones, and they get those great shots that you can't live without. But those cameras aren't really engaged except for when that time is right, which is one of the reasons why when we talked about sports throughout, it's really good to have like someone who's a technical director or producer who's really watching over all the thing with all those camera angles, because it's really easy for the person who's mixing, if you're in a TriCast or a VMix, to miss that camera because it happens so fast. Whereas the guy who's really in the know can say, get camera 6. We got to go to camera 6.
We kind of talked about that a lot yesterday, actually, where, it's great that all of these systems are becoming turnkey production systems, but also then being able to separate your graphics and your instant replay so they can really focus on just that aspect of it. And exactly, having a technical director that is just looking at all of the camera angles and calling which camera to pull, if you have the staff to do that, it's going to, again, take your production to 10, 11, 12.
So let's remember, in an educational setting, that means more kids get involved in producing the show, which I really love, which we talk about more cameras, but more cameras also means a technical director and other people can be involved. So if you had, let's say, 5 or 6 cameras, let's say you had 5 cameras in a shoot, and 3 of them were PTZ, 2 of them were cameramen, I'm still going to need 3 or 4 other kids actively participating in that production. So I think that's so important. It's not just that you produce the sports so you can show your audience the sports, but in a high school or college setting, give those students the opportunity to learn a very valuable marketable skill, which is knowing how to actually create and produce the content that is a sport.
So while you guys are talking, we had a private question sent in over Crowdcast.
Cool.
Asking about NDI technology. James, I'm going to ask you this one because the question is, how easy or difficult is it to set up the NDI network?
It's extremely easy, especially with, again, if you're looking at any PTC camera on the market right now is pretty much plug and play. And even updating the camera is pretty much plug and play. It used to be, even last year, you may have to do a 2-step USB and IP to do an update on your camera. That's no longer the case. Most cameras on the market, you connect it to your network switch, ideally an M4250, and you're able to instantly access the web GUI to be able to do the update and now see the camera on your network. Specifically, and again, we talked about this yesterday, using the M4250s because they have presets for different versions of NDI, but not only NDI, but also mixing your Dante audio into your production system as well.
Yeah, one of the things I want to caution here is a lot of people have a lot bigger, more expensive switches at their facility, especially in like a college, as an example, or in a stadium.
Minor league venues, stuff like that.
Right. The problem is they're not optimized for video production. So what happens is they're optimized for whatever the packet switching was for the whole enterprise, for the school district, for the school. We really want specific settings for video and for NDI. So the Netgear switch, the beauty of that is I don't have to have an engineer configure it for me. The Netgear switch, when you were talking about plug and play, is the easiest other part of that. Setting up the switch is so easy. So if you're going to go NDI, strongly recommend you get a Netgear AV switch to build it around. And then the other part about it is it really is that easy if you start with the right core switch.
Absolutely. And when you're considering these switches, you want to consider the number of inputs for all your sources. You want to consider the NDI technology. You also want to consider the power delivery. Total power delivery from your switch is going to let you keep that single Cat6 cable running to each of your sources and making sure that you're supplying power that each of those cameras need.
Yeah, I'm glad you said Cat6 because we used to say Cat5 and they'll still do the job. But I'm a firm believer in this day and age, it's going to cost you, pennies more per foot. Get Cat6, do it right.
Absolutely. And the thing that we've talked about too is with the Canon outdoor cameras, the Panasonic outdoor cameras, the Bird Door cameras. Some of these cameras require more power consumption on those lines. So you want to look at what you're speccing out in the venue, in your production, and then make sure that you get the switch that properly supports
100%. Good point, Jim. Good point.
We had one question come in about what devices to use to incorporate scoreboard information to your graphics and production.
Okay, so let me repeat the question because I know it came in from the production team, just in case it didn't come over air. What devices should a customer use to incorporate sports scoreboards into their graphics, into their production? Obviously a huge element in the sports world.
Right. A lot of scoreboards, if you buy one now, actually have a network jack, and they'll send that information over IP that you can bring it into your mixer, what have you. And then there's a whole variety. And I wish I had the list handy because I should have anticipated this question of third-party people who make little boxes that'll just basically take the output of the serial or HDMI output of the scoreboard. They'll digitize it and they'll have it flow in. It can flow in through NDI or through IP. And then there's other vision-based systems where you show a camera at the scoreboard and it just translates it and brings it in. So there's lots of different ways to do it.
And James, I know you talked a little bit about this on yesterday's show, incorporating the sports. A lot of these score feeds and the devices you talked about, like Scorebot is one. A lot of these days, what they will do is send you an HTML5 data feed. And then there are products like New Blue Captivate and Flowix that will take those feeds and incorporate it into their nice template.
LiveView Studio.
And LiveView Studio, absolutely. And LiveView Studio not only does it through their own platform, but they also incorporate Flowix and use other HTML feeds too.
HTML5 graphic system can be used with LiveView Studio.
So there are a ton of tools out there. I think the biggest thing to realize when we talk about that technology, the scoreboards themselves have become much smarter in being able to send that technology out onto the network and able to send that feed into a universal format that a lot of these different systems can take.
Absolutely.
And then the systems themselves have become much more agile in understanding and accepting that information and incorporating it into your production.
It's only going to get easier.
Absolutely.
And one thing that I think I would just like to add is if your scoreboard doesn't have this integration, a lot of the times a production system where you do still have to manually type it in will have hotkeys for 1 point, 3 points, foul, whatever needs to be incorporated.
Yeah, like the little YOLO box.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. The YOLO Box Ultra has a companion that is the YOLO deck, and you can set that to be able to quickly hit +3 and add it to one team score.
Excellent. Adam, we have any more questions coming over there on the production side? Guys, we must have done a great job presenting the information. Just a few questions today.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to take a moment now and announce some of our winners.
Well, before you do that, I just want to give kudos to the whole production team. We got James, we got Adam, Jen with the graphics, you guys, Jim, you oversaw it. Jamie did the social media. The marketing team really kicked butt on this. It was phenomenal. And, I'm going to say it was a touchdown. It was a grand slam. It was a knockout. It was a hole-in-one. Use any sports term you want. You guys killed it. So great job. And I'm going to step aside so that you can call off the winners, guys. But kudos to the team, man. Great job.
Excellent. Excellent. Great job. And now one of the most exciting parts of the event is we get to announce our lucky winners. First and foremost, every single person who registered for the event is going to get a complimentary digital subscription to Videomaker Magazine. Videomaker Magazine is a great resource for checking out the latest products and technology available in the industry today. They're always profiling the latest new cameras out on the market, technology from live production and streaming, PTZ cameras, and more. So congratulations, you're all winners. Next, I want to talk about some of the featured winners. First, with the winners who have received a certified TriCaster Vector operator exam. Now you can access VizRT University and get a complimentary exam to become a TriCaster Vector certified operator. TriCaster Vector does carry over to all TriCaster live production systems. It is a great bullet point to add to your resume. So congratulations to James, Lucas, Russell, Clinton, and Nikki. Our team will be in touch with you to get you your certificate to register with Viz University. We have another giveaway to Viz University, and this is for the 3Play operation exam. 3Play is VizRT's sports production system, and it can be used in conjunction with stuff like the TriCaster and their live production gear. Our winners for the 3Play operation exam include Adam, Ernest, Ray, Larry, and Stu, right here from New York. Congratulations to all of those winners. Again, our team will be getting in touch with you to get you that certificate for Viz University. We have a great prize given to us by LiveView, including a $50 Visa gift card and LiveView swag bag. They're going to put together a nice package for Tyler K. from Nebraska. Congratulations, Tyler. We will be in touch for you to be able to claim that prize, and you can go out there and spend the $50 on the sporting event in your neighborhood. Next, I want to announce our prize pack winner from Bird Dog. Again, a Bird Dog swag bag and $50 Visa gift card goes to Tom from Lee's Summit, Missouri. And last, another winner from a $100 Videoguys gift card, and we'll get some stuff out to Chris A. in Marietta, Georgia. Congratulations, Chris, and all of our winners. You can view all the content that you saw this week at SportStream.us. If you have any questions on your specific workflow, please give us a call at Videoguys at 800-323-2325. We're happy to help answer any of your questions or refer you to one of the great system integrators that we deal with throughout the country. We know that sports venues, sports production can get very detailed very quickly, and working with a local integrator in your area is the easiest way to get that system spec'd out for your venue exactly as it needs to be, especially if we're talking a baseball stadium. They don't even have a consistent outfield wall. We can make sure we get you the right equipment set up and we get the right team to be able to service and support all of your production gear. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, cheers.